a screen. Her smile, it shines so bright. She's a queen with every scene. In the morning or the night, recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. Every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong.
Battles got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feet, feel that queen's finesse. Vines tangle tight, but Flora breaks free. Roots so deep, can't mess with her tree. From the mud she rises, roses from the dirt. Every comment section she lays down hurt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. From the garden green to the concrete wall, Florabella, unstoppable nature's child. Leaves whisper secrets, she's the loudest shout. From the channel buzzing, she never backs out. Seed of strength, through season she grows. In the face of doubt, her spirit glows. Cameras ain't a limit, she branches out. Thorns in her crown, she wears it no doubt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless.
Alright, let me not hold you guys because I want to get right into the content. I'm a little bit excited about this one because I realized that I was ignorant to a lot of things that I was hearing about, meaning I didn't know like the in-depth backstory. So I said, let me go do some research. And what I found was truly disturbing. Now, let me say this. I knew some of this stuff in parts. Like I had heard of this man, I've heard of his crimes and things like that. But when you go on YouTube and you really search around the videos to see like some of the like historical stuff that's out there, there is like a barrage of positive historical stuff about him. Not necessarily like the community, the greater community, but the internal Nuwaubian community, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But there was a lot of historical material. There's a lot of recordings, video, like a lot of the charismatic cult leaders and their followings. There's a lot of old stock footage of what it looks like of their communities that can be very convincing. So anyways, guys, I'm like jumping right into it. I didn't even say hello to everyone in the chat. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. We have Bliss Black Beauty in the chat. We have Girl Dad cooking up deliciousness. And we have so many more that are in the clouds that just haven't joined us in the chat yet. So do me a favor, guys, and hit the like button. Get in the chat for me. Engage with the conversation. Again, I am here to just do the historical backstory on this, like fact based, not like riveting, not like trying to be sensational or anything like that. I just want to do the backstory because I didn't know it. So I did do the backstory, wanted to share that, what I found with my channel. And I also wanted to share with you guys a disturbing pattern that I realized that we're actually going to go through, but we're going to start listening to a little bit about Mr. Malachi York, because I refuse to call someone who fell to this low level of morality a doctor, but he was a leader, cult leader, what we would call an influencer, probably a cultural influencer, because he had a lot of um, cultural clout per se. So meaning like if he was a word of mouth dude, he was known in a lot of areas. He had sold books, all that. Um, but we're gonna start with these retired FBI agents talking about their investigation, talking about what they actually found, and sort of breaking it down for us because there's a lot of there was a lot going on in this time frame. Let me just say that there was a lot going on. Once you hear the time frame, you're gonna know there was other historical leaders that were going through some things with the police and things like that, or the FBI per se. So I just think it was a lot going on that people allowed this one to kind of slip in there, even though this was a pretty clear cut case of like a predator sort of using his following to gain money, to gain power, and then leveraging that power to take advantage of the most vulnerable people. So we're going to get into the FBI, the retired FBI agents talking about it, but I also have lots of other evidence. It's not just going to be coming from this video, so in case people are wanting to see more of um, um, a diverse stream of information about this particular case, don't worry, we will. The video says an hour long, but we're not going to stay a whole hour. Sometimes you just need to hear a little bit and then start putting the pieces together from different sources, and we hear the story in its true and complete form. Another reason why I think this is important, which you guys are going to see with how I'm laying out the content, is because when we don't talk about and remember these types of stories, the patterns, the behaviors of these leaders, these cult leaders, they become cyclical. So you start to see people regurgitating the same tactics. They might even become more brutal as time goes on, right? Because as time has gone forward, we've seen, or at least it appears, that violence is becoming way more normalized and things like that. So there's kind of this weird and very dangerous pattern that I see starting with Malachi and kind of branching into present day that we're going to talk about as well. All right, so let's get into the video. No more talking. I think that's enough bringing in the conversation. Hey, Miss TMKC, good morning. Good morning, good morning. All right, let's get into it. Do me a favor, guys, hit the like button, share, subscribe, get into the chat. That's what we're here to do, is have a conversation. So I will be stopping the video, so don't cry if that's what I do every now and then. All right, let's continue.
Welcome to episode 268 of FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. I'm a retired agent on a mission to show you who the FBI is and what the FBI does through my books, my blog, and my podcast case reviews with former colleagues. Today, we get to speak to retired agents Jelaine Ward and Joan Cronier. They discuss their investigation of cult leader Dwight D. York of the United Nation of Nuwaubian Moors. York used his charisma to recruit thousands of followers.
See,
Several
that's
hundred
something I didn't know. I knew they were I thought they were Hebrew Israelites, honestly. I didn't know that it was like this big blend of sort of all the Pan-African ideals in one. But I didn't know they were Moorish as well. So anyways, let's continue.
members lived with their children on his 475-acre compound in Putnam County, Georgia, where, for years, he sexually molested boys and girls 18 to as young as 3 years old. In 2004, York was convicted and sentenced to 135 years in federal prison without parole. The FBI code name for the investigation was Operation One Man Act. Jelaine and Joan, along with other members of their prosecutive team, received the Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service for their work on this case. Retired Agent Jelaine Ward served in the FBI for nearly 27 years. She was assigned to the Atlanta Division, Macon Resident Agency. She worked a variety of investigations with an expertise in white-collar crime, violent crime, and crimes against children. She was the National Center of Analysis for Violent Crime and Crimes Against Children coordinator for the Atlanta Division for over 20 years and received extensive training in behavioral analysis, threat assessment, interview and interrogation, crisis management, school violence, and the sexual exploitation of children. Currently, Jelaine operates Integris, LLC, a private investigative security and threat assessment consulting service. Retired Agent Joan Cronier served in the FBI for 20 years. Joan spent her bureau career in the Atlanta Division, where she utilized her financial crimes education and experience on white-collar crime and government fraud squads. After the successful investigation and prosecution of David York, Joan switched her focus to crimes against children. She spent several years as
And this is what's something that people don't understand is that could the investigation skills that you need to work in like a CSEC type of role, which is dealing with children that are exploited, are their specific skills. So their credentials in this and their credentialing in general, this is not just a random railroading, right? These are people who were sought after to, well, at least one of them was before, and then after that she became part of it. But at least one of them had already previously had experience working with exploited children. So you can imagine that there were a lot of things that they're going to speak about that they understood and they saw in these communities. Now, people talked about physical evidence a lot in this case, and I want people to just really listen to how things connected in a way that it wasn't like so clear, but it was clear. Like I thought it was clear enough. I don't know how people are still saying like, oh, it's not possible, or they're railroading him. And I mean, when we really get into the nitty gritty, it's very clear, right? There isn't always going to be a lot of physical evidence in cases of CSEC as well. Like that's just simply how it is, right? There tends to be a lot of grooming, covering up, and things like that that happens that works against that, and it's very time sensitive as well. DNA evidence when it comes to these types of crimes, right? So there's not going to be a lot of physical evidence in these cases, although even then I will argue there was some. Right, so let's get into it. But I do want to highlight their credentials. I mean, these women, their life's work was working with children and rescuing children out of these sort of oppressive environments. Which this became that. I don't care if like he preached whatever, but like we're gonna find that this is exactly what it became. Hey Scar Beauty, hey Miss Joanne Jenkins. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me here today. How you doing? I was really excited to do this one because I keep hearing about him in several environments, and I just don't know a lot. I didn't know a lot about it, so I was like, you know what? Let me dive into this and let me do it with my channel. Because this is what we like to do. We like to be informed on crime, whether it's historical or present day. Because this is stuff that is sort of spilling into the culture in the present day. I would say. Um, Especially those people who become enlightened later in life, they can fall prey to not knowing the truth about these types of environments and these cultures and things like that. There's a lot of people in the community who, and I'm speaking specifically the Black community, who have come onto spirituality and like all these other Black and Afrocentric things later in life, and they might not know a lot of this stuff. So it is important to sort of reestablish the story and the truth. And there's a lot of pioneers in this, right? Just like Umar has somebody who's stomping on his neck. So does Dr. Malachi York, right? So let's continue, guys. We'll get right into it. Oh, hey, Miss Front Porch. I don't know if I said hi already, but I know I highlighted you to say hi. So how you doing today? Yeah, girl, that stuff we've seen. I remember Taz talking about him. Then watch the documentary about it. Yeah, I definitely heard him talk about it and heard about it in that context. I just haven't had the greater knowledge base and like the investigation and looking into all that. I haven't really focused in on it. And I thought it would be an interesting thing for us to go into today. So hopefully you guys enjoy it here. And for those who don't know a lot about it, like myself, even though I've heard bits and pieces from Taz, I've heard bits and pieces from Mel as well. I haven't heard the greater, larger context. So I was like, let me get into a little bit of this. And I realized that the FBI, retired FBI agents and other people actually spend a lot of their time. Yeah, it's really sick, Scar Beauty. It's cyclical though, right? I think even like the more that people don't highlight and remember, because Nature Boy still has women who are part of this cult. That's the crazy part. Sorry, my ponytail is so tight right now. I don't know why. I think it's because I was out and I didn't want my hair to be swishing all over the place. Well, let's go down this rabbit hole. Oh, we're definitely going to, because I think we need to, especially with how cyclical it is. How many people in the present day are still falling for these types of cults, and it's weird. But all right, let's get into it.
A member and coordinator on an Innocent Images Crimes Against Children task force. Since retiring, Joan works as a consultant and investigator on the global cybersecurity team of a Fortune 100 company. Before you listen to the case review, I need to issue a trigger warning. We discuss graphic descriptions of child sexual abuse. If you want to skip that part, please fast forward when the testimony is being read. In your podcast app's description of this episode, you'll find links to about. I want to welcome my guest, retired agents Jelaine Ward and Joan Cronier. Hey, Jelaine, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Hi, Joan.
Hey, Jerry. Thanks for having us.
Both of you worked on this case, and I know there's so many people in the true crime audience who follow cults, but this may be one that they're not aware of. This case is going to focus on Dwight York. He called his followers and the compound that they lived in down in Georgia, where you were, the Nuwaubian Nation. Before we get into who Dwight York is, Jelaine, could you talk about how you became involved in the case? And then Joan will talk to you about what role you played.
I got involved in the case a couple years before the key witness came in, only in the sense that I was assisting Agent Tom Deal. He had a source that had ties to that community and was giving him some information. And there were allegations of copyright violations, narcotics, trafficking, stockpiling weapons, things like that. When I got involved was when we had two potential witnesses that alleged sexual abuse, or there was possible abuse. We interviewed those witnesses in Memphis, Tennessee, and basically learned that there was secondhand information and really no direct knowledge. They had seen things. They had seen girls go into York's bedroom or go upstairs in that compound. but they'd never been abused themselves or actually witnessed anything. That case did not materialize. And
it sucks because you see, we tell people to speak up when they see something that's not right. Unfortunately, secondhand information, like just having a feeling, is not enough, right? There has to be people on the inside, on the real inside, who are willing to speak up. So it seems like at least people were trying to do the right thing. Who knows how many people were affected by then, but still.
it was eventually incorporated into the case that I opened in 2001.
And Joan?
Let me kind of tell you, Jerry, how I got involved. This was like around 2000, maybe 2001. A couple of the agents were doing a undercover operation. I was assigned to help out with that. So when I first started, I only did it for a couple weeks, a couple months maybe. There really wasn't a lot of work for me to do. So I was looking to get something started and get involved in something interesting. So I was reading through the files and I noticed that a lot of the reports referred to Nuwaubian compound and Dwight York in Macon. And at one point they had a intel case open when it was transferred to Atlanta from New York, but it had been closed. So I'm like, there seems to be a lot of smoke here. Maybe there's something worth investigating further. I noticed that they had a case in Macon signed to Tom Deal and Jelaine. So I called Jelaine. I was like, I'm interested in looking at this, seeing if there seems to be some leads that we could pursue if interested. And we started talking. I don't really remember how it happened, but at some point, not long after that, Jelaine called and said one of the, what do we want to call her, a ex-Nuwaubian or somebody that had left, wanted to come in and tell her story. She came in with the sheriff to the Atlanta office and we sat down and talked to her. And that was kind of my first opening in the case.
Jelaine, you were assigned to an RA out of the Atlanta division, right?
Macon RA.
Okay, that's a resident agency, and it's actually like a satellite office out of the Atlanta division, and that's where Joan was.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about Dwight York and how he ended up in Georgia.
Dwight David York started a pseudo-Muslim type community in New York, Brooklyn, New York, had a group called the Nuwaubian Islamic Hebrews, not accepted by the legitimate Muslim communities in that area, and basically run out of there.
So he moved to upstate New York, Sullivan County, in about 1989. So he stayed there until he purchased the property in Putnam County, Georgia, in January of 1993.
Investigation of him started in our district when he purchased the property in Eatonton, Georgia, which I was going to look up the population, but you have to appreciate Putnam County and Eatonton, Georgia, to be just a small town. I'm sure it's less than 20,000 people, and then moved to a rural area and bought a piece of property for $500,000 and puts like a $400,000 cash down payment on it. It was about 476 acres, 19 acres.
So you guys can see why that would raise red flags, right? Why does this man no one's gonna kick you, Gito, stop. Unless you're gonna misbehave. No one's gonna kick you out. Hey, Victorious One, come in here already acting up. Islamic Hebrew. Girl, he has so many religions. It's just, but I had to stop there because this dude thought he was going to be able to purchase a property with $400,000 down cash money and not raise any flags to the IRS or the police. I mean, that's obviously going to start. You spend more than $10,000 or you gain more than $10,000 and the IRS is already in your backyard, like already looking through your fridge, looking through your drawers at night. Yes. So $400-something thousand down, and you got to think about the time, right? They're talking about 1989, so that's damn near drug money. Let's be real. 400,000 today will get you a nice house in the suburb. Back in the day, you could have bought, which what he did was buy a whole plot of land, like a whole. I can't. Let's continue though, because this is just crazy that people thought this was all just normal. what he was doing and the allegations. But I tell you something that bothers me about the community, right? All people got to do is have a few dollars. All they have to have is a little bit of money, and people in the community will exalt them up to the moon, to the stars. And I don't get it. When does it become about integrity? I mean, the whole thing with Diddy, everyone's sitting here, oh my God, yes, so he's free. Oh, he's gonna go free. And he's literally, we just learned that he trafficked every girlfriend that he had. I mean, do we, how is this normal? Right? Like, how can people look at this case and just, well, because he got a few dollars or he had $400,000, he was taking care of the community. No, he was using that money literally to exploit people. That's essentially what it came down to. That's what all that wealth really meant for him and for what he was doing to that community. Hey Alice, she says, hi, how are you? I am doing well. How are you doing today? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Yeah, that's all it comes down to, Victorious One. Because I mean, they were exalting him like he was some king, some god. I even go into the comment sections of all these videos. It's a lot of hatred and anger at the people who want to tell the truth. And I don't get it. Like, if he's really accused, if he's really done what he's done, and there's so much evidence to this degree, and he's pled guilty, and his wives have pled guilty, how is it possible that people are really still till today exalting his name up? They must not really truly know the history. That has to be what it is. Gino, come on. We're not talking about we're not talking about that this morning, okay? Behave. Behave.
Containing living space. So what happened is when he initially moved there, he just put up a place, a couple shacks to stay, and he brought a few followers with him. He didn't move full-fledged onto the compound. So kind of laid in the weeds and didn't attract a lot of attention at first. But then when he brought in more followers as the years went on, then he started to try to get permits from the county and run a production studio and do different things. Sheriff Sills and a lot of community leaders started to have a lot of problems with Dwight York and a lot of his followers. And we're trying to address those problems. So it kind of starts back then where the sheriff comes to us and wants some help with it. To make that story short, he just follows his request for assistance, and Deal was the case agent at the time. He had an informant that had given him information about some of the illegal activities going on there. So they tried to get some interest from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but there was none at the time. It fell on the heels of Waco and Ruby Ridge. The U.S. Attorney's Office at the time basically said, no, this is a religious organization, just leave it alone. Naturally.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Sebi Jr. I'm so sorry about that. Is insane. You know, that's very sick. And it just shows you like the mental, like how people really become feeble minded, like under the leadership of people. Like they really follow people blindly. There was similar conversations like that surrounding some things with Nature Boy. Like this is a really sick thing to be going on. You know, it's weird, and it's crazy that people fight so hard today to say that these are lies. The FBI, the white man, but there's real life Black people who are victims, and like for me, this is just more evidence to me that Gino, you get on my nerves. This is just more evidence to me that people don't care about when Black children, or especially the community, when it's Black children and Black girls who are the victims. Like they can't possibly care. Because this man has 77 or something victims, 77 counts of this. He had pleaded guilty. His wife pleaded guilty. And you have people today in the present day saying he was set up, it's all a lie. Do they even watch this evidence? Or do they just watch rose-colored videos about him? Like, it's really sick, honestly. And these are the people who investigated him. They had no motive to frame him for this, right? These are people who are skilled in working in child trafficking. What motive would they have to just pin everything on this random dude when there are, in fact, several people who are engaging in high-level trafficking that probably are going unnoticed every day? You know, it's ridiculous. But all right, let's continue.
Sheriff Sills was frustrated with that.
I believe he was
Yeah.
getting calls from parents as well,
Yes, good point. Yes, he was.
looking for their children, grown-ups. None of them were minors on the compound who wouldn't return their calls or didn't know if they
Right.
were being held against their will.
Yeah, they would be missing and they didn't know if they were there.
Parents who were calling their adult children were missing.
That's right. Correct.
And
Right.
these were the kind of things that the U.S. Attorney's Office initially did not want to get involved in.
Nope, they did not. And I want to also mention that when we say what their group is called, the United Nation of Nuwaubian Wars, we obviously were not targeting them at all in terms of followers. It had nothing to do with what they believe or their membership. We weren't looking at them at all as villains in this. I think they felt like that somewhat when we did the search, that we were breaking up their world in a sense, coming into the compound. But really, we had nothing against the followers in terms of their choices to worship or to follow and stuff. It just had to do with, obviously, what we felt like was a Wizard of Oz and a charade involving Dwight York. He eventually has like 300 plus followers there, including 50 to 100 children. He had all these kind of identities that he used over that period of time. And certainly while he was in Georgia, some of his known names, Iman Isa Al-Hadi, Melchizedek, Chief Black Eagle.
Dr. Sebi Jr., that's really interesting because there's a lot of ties to the industry when it comes to sexual deviancy and other things that are going on. There's allegations of trafficking and stuff that's happening in the industry, and I just wonder how all this stuff is connected because these are high level people. I mean, this man bought a piece of land with $400,000 cash. Where do you get that in 1989? Truly, where do you get that? They're going to talk about some of his ventures. He was an author, so he sold a lot of books, but I don't understand how you sling books into millions of dollars, essentially, because that's the only way you would be able to sustain. That's crazy. True light, huh? Scarred, I don't be knowing, but there's a lot of theories about all these communities. Nuwaubian, Islamic, Hebrew. Literally, these men just throw together a bunch of stuff and hope that it sticks because it's so many different influences that they talk about within this thing that I don't even know what to call it outside of a Nuwaubian nation. That was their name, but you don't even know. Men are responsible for 90% of rape and violence against women and children. Unreal. Yeah, they are. But, the people want to gaslight to the few times that women engage in some of this stuff. I'm not saying that women can't be progenitors of abuse and violence, but it's generally happening at the hands of influential males. It's crazy. Um, yeah, it's like there's so many religions mashed together. You don't even know. Where did he say he got the money from his followers? We're going to hear a little bit more about exactly how he was peddling this religion and got money. He took their life savings, food stamps, everything, their property, their cars, their wives. Jesus Christ. That sounds like, who does that sound like, guys? In the present day, who also was just convicted. Who's that sound like? Let's continue.
Master teacher, Rabbi York. So when he first got to Putnam County, when he first got here, he started with an American Indian kind of theme. He called it Egypt of the West, Egyptology combined with American Indians, and they dressed in cowboy hats and jeans and boots. And he wore a headdress and called himself Chief Black Eagle. He's gone through several themes. The alien theory is going to take them to Planet Risk in 2003, and there'll only be 144,000 followers chosen. And he just had a lot of people fooled.
I looked at some of the images and photos that you've shared with me, and you're right. One minute he is dressed as a Native American chief. The next minute he's an Egyptian pharaoh, I guess. Next minute, some type of Islam sheikh, and his followers just seem to kind of go along with it. What do you think, Joan?
I don't think he believed any of his philosophies, really. Why do they follow him? I honestly, it's like any cult.
Where is he getting this money that he could spend that much on buying property in Georgia? How is he making his money?
I think that's a good one for Joan to answer. You knew more about his financial design.
Sure. So Understand that York did have a lot of followers outside of his compound.
Oh,
He
yes.
was a prolific writer and he sold a lot of books. So he had several stores throughout the country and he sold his books. He also would have parties and charge entrance fees. Like he would have his birthday parties, his own birthday party in June. I can't recall what he called the party. He could make $400,000 just on entrance fees and selling $4 for a bottle of water. And it was all cash. He would also charge people who wanted to be part of the group. They submitted applications and he charged a fee for those. He had plenty of money coming in and it was almost all cash. He would have, I think we'll get to it. We found one suitcase of cash when we did the search warrant.
Another thing I wanted to ask, Jelaine was saying
So,
that the
so he bought properties and $400,000 of cash. There's a cash suitcase, so that means there was a lot of cash in there. We don't know how much. There was likely money being pumped from. Where was his money coming from? This is like the question, because they're talking about all the support he had. Who was paying to be members? Now, I saw a lot of celebrity references and people that were getting involved with him, which I don't know if we're going to have time to get into all of those. But, I mean, this guy was just being pumped with money. And it begs the question, why? Right? What were people getting out of these experiences with him, with what he was building? I mean, you could sit there and say that he was a prophet, but ain't nothing I heard him say at all sound prophetic. In fact, I thought it was a lot of shrubbery, right? A lot of nonsense and foolery. You're talking about the outfit? Because the whole Pharaoh, Indian, native, like he had too much going on. None of it was on brand with one particular. He was just blending everything and feeding people what they wanted to hear and see. Right? They wanted him to be a prophet that was here to save the black people, to support the black people. Right? That's what he wanted. I mean, that's what they wanted. I'm sorry. So, of course, they'll see that in him, whether it was there or not, which is, that's the dangerous part about how these charismatic leaders really kind of get in there. Oh, that's crazy. All right, let's continue.
U.S. Attorney's Office was hesitating in getting involved in the initial case because they deemed his quote unquote cult a religious group, a religious organization.
Jerry, what happened there is we got a new U.S. attorney. It was the leadership had changed at the time. And so then we were able to move forward. And especially, of course, as we were able to interview a couple witnesses, the key witnesses that cooperated, that's obviously when the case broke open. But we did get more interest after we had a new U.S. attorney take office. A lot of those publications that Joan was mentioning, a lot of them were written by his followers as well. A lot of the things that they marketed and the trinkets and sold, the men would run stores in different parts of the states and they would make, like she said, they make a lot of money from marketing items that were kind of organized and put together by his followers, along with his own publications, of course.
The women followers would work in the office for hours and hours a day on his publications. And I don't think they realized that they were doing like some serious desktop publishing, something they should have been getting paid a lot of money for. And it was all free labor to him.
Yeah.
So it didn't cost him anything to put these books together.
What was his message? What was he sharing that would make these people come to him and want to hear what he had to say?
His sermons were recorded and reviewed by behavioral experts and by us as investigators, et cetera. He preached that this was going to be a new country with its own fire department, its own hospital, et cetera, and that they were going to be a sovereign citizenship. By having their own country, it was going to keep the racism out. I had actually heard some of his sermons from surveillance. He preaches racism. He preaches anti-law enforcement. He had a way for reaching followers that were missing something in their life. Some of them were born into the compound. Some of them moved there from, like Joan said, they were at one point 10,000 followers. So they were all over in different states and parts of the country, mostly towards the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. They would come and follow him because of his promise for calm and peace and something that their family would grow with. only to find out, of course, so much more the opposite of that.
If you study cults, you do see that they all have a charismatic leader, and he definitely was charismatic and had a lot to do with why these people followed him.
Yes, he did. And he has several of the red flags too, because when they moved to the compound, he separated the women from the children, the husbands from the wives, and they all lived in different areas. The children weren't disciplined by their
See,
parents.
this is what
They
I'm
were
saying.
disciplined.
Like, let me find out some random dude that I'm living in a compound with is going to separate me from my family. That's insane. I mean, you're not taking my kids anywhere. You're not taking my wife anywhere, husband anywhere. Like, how are these men and these women just comfortable giving up their families? Like, just for some random loser to tell you how to raise your kids and where your kids can sleep? I mean, that's literally a breeding ground for violating children. That's all that is. This is not him wanting to raise the black people. He wanted easy access, and that's exactly what he got. Right? What they said about the people that he reached people who are seeking something. Yeah, yeah, I've heard Coochie Taker studied with Polite and his crew as well. Yeah, that's why she's so aggressive and masculine. You know, her message is so vile. You know, I went to her channel, and that was the last time I went to channel, trolling, joking around, and this lady started talking about shoving a phallus down my throat because of what? I'm like, what the hell is this lady even saying? Like, these people in these environments become deviants, right? Deviants. So, all right. Hello, Flo. Hope you're feeling well today. I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm doing great. Upward and onward. That's what I told y'all I'm doing, and that's what we're doing. They become groomed and indoctrinated. They were lost in directionless people. Gino, don't ask questions. Don't ask. Don't ask questions, okay? That's what she was called, is the coochie taker. Okay, she goes around snatching up coochies. That's exactly what she's doing. She was accused by several women of being vile and aggressive, and leaving her daughter on a pissy mattress while she was doing her due. But yeah, all these people that come from these weird pseudo sectors, they are literally deviants, like deviants, and you see it all. It always comes out like later. You know, it comes out once people start looking a little bit deeper into their background, into their environment. That's why you kind of have to study people sometimes. You can't just let people lead you and you don't know who they are, right? There's a lot of that on the internet right now where people are being led to and through hell, and they're going willingly. It's weird. Snatching pun into no, the pun was not intended. The pun was not intended, but it landed exactly where it needed to. But yeah, that's exactly kind of what the issue is here, is that people are just kind of open to be understanding and taking on the ideology of just anybody. Like, you can't do that. Um, Flo, one day you gotta talk. Oh, listen, we've only been here 43 minutes, guys. Give me some time, okay? Okay, give me some time. I don't know about Baby York though. That's the only one I don't know if I've ever heard about. Um, oh, do you mean Queenmaker? Okay, I won't ask. Yeah, don't ask. Um, okay, let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and do this because I do feel like sometimes people come in here um, mentioning other channels to kind of divert away from somebody else's channel, which I don't like. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you on timeout, Sin7. Stop mentioning other creators. I don't care if they're positive. If I wanted to credit them, I would. I'm not trying to redirect people out of my videos. So if you want to mention somebody that you want me to view or recommend, leave it in the comment versus in the chat. I would just prefer that. I just don't like that. Sometimes, especially when it's people that just kind of come here when I'm being messy here, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, do not leave content creators in the chat. or anything like that. Um, I don't even want to know what that is, Dr. Sebi, because I don't know what that is and I'm happy about it. All right. Um, yeah, sometimes people come in here trying to drag all the other sector stuff. It's like, please, okay, you don't even have to mention. If I said that I'm not doing that type of content, that's what I'm not doing. Okay. Uh, yes. Let me get to it. Sometimes I have to redirect the chat because people get so messy in here. They come in here and be so messy. This is not about advice. This channel is the video that I'm doing right now is literally on predators. So I don't understand why you trying to redirect people to a channel that gives out advice. Like, what are we doing, Sin Seven? Why do you always got to come in the chat and get on my nerves? Every other couple of months, Sin Seven gets on my nerves. Usually she's fine, but she'll come in here and be trying to redirect people to others' videos. You already mentioned one other Dustin video, which was fine, whatever. But now you mentioned another thing that has nothing to do with the content. So, anyways, let's get. Maybe this is why people don't like to do live streams because y'all can't stay on topic. All right, let's continue.
By his women that followed him and that he had sexual relationships with. They were the ones who would feed and house and discipline these children. So he was able to control what they did and what they thought by keeping them away from their parents. And he also would use the victims that he chose. He would use other sexual partners to shun them or influence them if they didn't comply with his wishes or do as he told. So he had a lot of, like you say, Joan, a lot of control over all of them, the men as well. They weren't allowed to go off the compound unless he gave them permission, and then he had to know where they were going or be escorted. The women had their babies in a hospital with armed guards or guards accompanying them to the hospital. So it was definitely hit on many of the dynamics of a cult leader. And he would portray himself as a god. You know, he's got all kinds of pictures and depictions of him with white robes and standing over small children and a lamb, just like in the pictures of Jesus. He presents that image to his followers. And then they literally, if you looked in the rooms when we did the search warrant, all of them have pictures on their wall of York portrayed as a godly-like person. It's a lot of control for sure.
Why do they follow him? It's like any cult. I think they feel like it's a family at some point, and they thought he was their father, the God, and they just went with what he said. Because to disagree was to be shunned by him and the group.
You know, this kind of reminds me of another cult, Yahweh ben Yahweh. And I actually did an interview, episode 113, about that case. And one of the things that he did was that he had his followers, he demanded that they be involved in violent activities, such as random racial killings. Did Dwight go that far? Was that part of his philosophy, the activities he had his followers do?
I know that he had his followers harass and vandalize property in the community and harass the leaders and the various community members, planning and zoning commissions and things like that. That was all early on more what the sheriff was dealing with at the time. I interviewed a male witness that at some point he had thought about killing the sheriff and had talked about it with his male followers, but obviously decided that that would bring too much attention to him and had changed his mind. But I don't know of any killings. I wouldn't say for sure, but we were told that there were allegations of arson and murder and crimes like that in New York. Joan, do you know anything else where he would have actually carried out a murder?
No, not in Georgia.
I mean, he threatened now. I mean, he threatened the judge. He threatened the witnesses. And we had to have special protection for our witnesses during the trial. The U.S. Marshals in charge.
So is everybody just lying now? People weren't getting threatened. I mean, it's easy for victims to come back. You're going to see victims came back and tried to recant, you know, once they got all the cultural backlash and the whole community is yelling at them for getting justice. How dare they, right? But it's just interesting. I just lost my train of thought, but I'm also a little frustrated because I was having two thoughts at the same time, and then I forgot both of them. What the heck?
All that accompanied the witnesses each day to the trial. So he certainly
that's what I'm saying. Is everybody lying? Right? Was he not? threatening judges and people that were testifying, right? Was this all not happening during the context of the trial just for him to then plead guilty? For me, I think like the delusion that kind of gets stronger and stronger over generations when people don't correct these false narratives about these people. I mean, the fact that there's a video that was made 2 years ago and the comments from very recently, there are people saying, F this, he's the king, he's the next, what do you call it? The Messiah. You guys wanted him in jail. He said they were going to take him away. Why? What would they have to take him away if he didn't hurt nobody? There would be nothing to take him away. He knew what he was doing. That's probably why he said that BS, because these people like to try and exalt themselves, right? They like to put themselves above others, act like they have some special importance. They don't have any special importance. He was simply exploiting people. That's all he was doing. All right, let's continue. We're going to listen to a few more minutes of this, guys. And then I'm going to move on to Mr. Chuck Taylor, I believe his name is. He's somebody who's done a lot of Chuck Morgan. I'm sorry, I said Chuck Taylor. He's done a great breakdown and a lot of the cleaning up of what people in the community are unwilling to do. You know, telling the truths and putting the information out there. You know, speaking for the victims who even some may have recanted because of the pressure that they're feeling in their communities. All right, so let's do a few more minutes of this interview, and then we will get into Mr. Chuck Morgan's video. Lana Love says, and cry victim when they're hurting people. Exactly. You know, and the funny thing is, these leaders, they know what they're doing, right? And that's why they will go and take these pleas, and that's why his wife took the plea. But then they'll play into their community just like Brother Polite. Then they'll play to the community like, oh, I'm being railroaded. This is all fake. This is all part of it. You guys have to believe in me so that they can continue to get the support, the money, whatever it is they need to keep fighting their little dusty cause. But he's not getting out of prison. You know, so it's crazy that there's people today that throughout time have just diluted the truth and have allowed this guy to continue to be somebody prophetic, or they teach him to be a prophetic person, even though it's very clear he was abusing his own people, the ones that he claimed to be saving. Right? So, all right, let's continue with this video.
Do harm. He threatened his followers if they would file child support lawsuits. And of course, he threatened Judge Royal. There were definitely a few threats that we dealt with after the trial, really right up until my retirement for Judge Royal. We identified someone that was allegedly supposed to travel and cause harm. Either we thwarted it or it just never came to fruition. Certainly think he was capable of it. And it's something that we talked about a lot, I guess, in preparing for the search and the entry. Was he going to kill himself? Would he kill others? You know, obviously our objective was to arrest him off of the compound, not on with his followers, because we felt like that could have generated a problem.
There's a lot of allegations, stockpiling of weapons. The sheriff, Howard Sills, he was just looking for help on what can we do? Is there anything we can do? And then when our victim witness came through saying she wanted to talk, she provided such detail as, okay, we have people we can talk to, interviews we can do to pursue interstate transportation, transporting children across state lines for the purpose of
sexual exploitation of children.
So our victim witness came in May of 2001, and she was at the time in her early 20s, and she had been born into the Nuwaubian compound. She was born in 73, and her parents were followers of York. So that's all she knew. She told her story of how she was raised separate from her parents and basically laid out how everything worked. And then she detailed how York.
That's kind of sick, right? All these generations being born, because that's the 70s. How many more children were born into that and through that environment that were being assaulted or that were being even indoctrinated into this belief, right? There may be some of the people that are still brainwashed to this day. You know, that's really sick for somebody to abuse what it is that the power that they hold over people to do negative things, right? Because if people give you power, you don't have to exploit that. You can use it to help them, to benefit them and yourself. But these people almost undoubtedly always have underlying issues, right? Which I'm not giving this over the mental issues, but this man was a grandiose narcissist at best. At worst. No, at best, actually, because he was probably a lot worse than that. Let's continue.
Molested her starting when she was 14, and then how it evolved from Bushwick, from Brooklyn, and then he moved her to Sullivan County, and then eventually down to Macon. And she provided details of all the other children that he had molested, and it was quite shocking.
Before she came in, were you aware of the allegations of child sexual abuse? Or were you looking at him for other things, other illegal and criminal activities that the sheriff had told you about?
Jelaine, I'm going to leave that to you because this was my first exposure.
I wouldn't say early on, but there was a point when we had received some allegations or someone had said that they were, I think the sheriff actually had learned that too through different individuals coming into the hospitals, having the babies, and different like cooperating witnesses that he had that would tell him that there were allegations of sexual molestation. We did suspect that, but with that said, we were never able to, until Habiba came in, we were never able to talk to someone who had direct knowledge. We went to Memphis, Tennessee. We did some interviews with some former followers up there, and they had heard that was going on there. They saw girls going into his room and young girls talking about his private parts and things like that was in the interview, but nobody experienced anything firsthand, and they couldn't tell us who to go talk to from there. So it was some allegations of it, not early on, but as we kind of dealt with other matters with that group, it started to surface, but it didn't come forward where we actually were able to corroborate all these witnesses that told their story and kind of realized that it was obviously not only going on, but it had gone on for years. And the acts that were done to these children was just horrific. He chose male and female victims. He chose different ages. You know, he's often referred to as a pedophile. Ken Lanning would say, and Ken and I talked about this, he's really more of just an indiscriminate sexual predator. His love that he professed for the children was fake, kind of fake presentation, and he just chose victims based on their eyes, their rear end, how they walked, whatever he chose. He would tell the women that were following him already and had sexual relations for years, he would just tell them to bring that child to him. And of course, from there, it just went, some of the women didn't want to.
See, this is sick, right? Because for him to be indoctrinating those children from birth, some of them, right? Take them straight from their parents and teach this foul living, right? For him to really do that, I mean, he literally raised the people he preyed on. How would these people be able to resist any of this programming? Like, it's really sick what was going on with this individual. You know, the fact that he was, yeah, it's disgusting because their degeneracy knows no limits. TMKC, it knows none, and the things that some of these predators do. I mean, they were talking about Yahweh bin Yahweh, how all the crimes that he made the people involved with him commit. You know, it's a lot of sick things that these people do with their power. So I really don't understand how people are able to give themselves to this. Now, these generations of people whose family and bloodline were tainted with this nonsense, are they even healing, especially if they're still there? Right? This is this kind of sickness that comes from being ostracized from the larger community. But this is why we have to just sort of find our own peace and place. There's no need to find this extreme version of race and race identification. We just need to know where we come from, appreciate that, uplift that, preserve it. That's the only way to, instead of going into these environments where it's hyper focused on race and we're being manipulated a lot of the times. Because again, I don't see a parent that'll be comfortable just giving their kid up to this dude. That's crazy. I'm not giving my kid to no weird ass. I don't care what your I don't care who called you down to this earth, my nigga. You're not taking my children anywhere. What are we talking about? Then on top of that, from literally from birth, raise them up in places. So there's a possibility you don't even know who's caring for those children. Women who've already been groomed and taught this nasty way of lifestyle. I mean, it's really disgusting. yeah, desperation makes people way more trusting. Way, way more trusting. Obviously, there's other disorders at work involved when it comes to child abuse. Yeah, I'm sure there is, but it's at the end of the day, the root is evil. It's just, it's there's really nothing that can excuse this type of behavior. This is a conscious choice that people make. They know the compulsions are wrong. That's why they hide it. So I mean, it's one of those things that's truly disgusting. Um, so yeah, and this is why, like, when people try to say, "Oh, these people are being railroaded," I don't want to hear none of that stupid stuff about race when all the victims are a bunch of black women and children. Like, I don't want to hear any of that. This is the stupidest thing ever. The fact that people will really jump to that conclusion because, and mind you, it's your own people that are being affected by this, so y'all don't care. But y'all expect the greater society to care when something happens by the hands of somebody from the outside. Like, we have to care about ourselves. And at the end of the day, this is a lot of people that were indoctrinated, and this was passed on, unfortunately. But too many people are less suspicious and skeptical about these types. Yeah, a lot of people aren't willing to go against the status quo or question what's going on. That's the problem. That groupthink starts to kick in, and then you have people being affected. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next video just because this is a longer video. I will put all the links in my description after. So you guys, if you want to go back and watch any of it, that you can. But I am going to move on to the next video. Like I mentioned, this is by Chuck Morgan. He's somebody similar to what I would call Lennon Honor, except Lennon Honor is dealing with um, Dr. Umar, who's a financial scammer, versus this is somebody who's a sexual predator, right? So they're kind of doing similar things, just the seriousness of the things is a little different. Like Jim Jones, he used people's natural concerns, weaknesses, and religious faith to manipulate them. Notice, you know one thing, Victorious Woman, because everyone always wants to say we can't make these gender conversations about violence, but when you really look at who's committing all of this, who's becoming these sensational leaders and then abusing the power that the people give them to raise them up, to raise their vibrations, whatever they want to call it, it's always some men. It's literally like it's like some men were just hardwired to just be like deviant in this way, because even the most mentally ill women do not go to this extent of violence. Like, it's crazy to me. um Umar, black queens forever, take care of your kids never. Oh my. Oh my. It's about understanding what the world truly is. These people exist and they are everywhere. Yeah, but you'll have some people who will even try to act like, oh, there's no, the people who commit those type of sick stuff, that's black people. I'm not black. That's white people. Them is white people crimes. Who do y'all think? You guys know the infamous Charlemagne the God on his show. He liked to put Donkey of the Day, and then he would do, guess what race it is? That's literally, we can't even do that, right? Because across all spectrums, across all types of crimes, we're committing the same stuff. We're committing the same stuff. We're doing the same deviant things in our culture. So I don't understand why we're trying to act like criminality is race based, or like we did act like that way at some point. Maybe it's changing now, but we literally used to sit here and act like criminality is race based, and oh, this is white people, them's is white people things. That's the main problem right there. Trying to act like we don't, like there's no crime amongst ourselves, amongst us. Lennon went off the other day with Umar. Oh my God. Umar is a hot mess. If it's not a conscious stripper, it's somebody else coming and showing us who he really is. This time it's his daughter. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's so sad. I mean, she's out, like, just wigging out on cam, like, yelling at herself, yelling at the street, wearing coochie cutters in the middle of the night by herself. Like, she just looks crazy. You know? It's crazy. Yeah, criminality is not race. I don't know why people try to act like certain things are white white crimes, black crimes. No, we all commit crimes across the board. Across the board. And 9 times out of 10, the people that we're going to hurt the most look just like us. And that's not a racial thing. It's about who we're around. If you're around your people, you're around a bunch of black people, that's who's gonna be responsible for your deletion 9 times out of 10 if you are deleted. And that's not just to say everyone's gonna be deleted. Same goes for white people. 9 times out of 10, the person who deletes a white person is gonna be a white person. So I don't know why they clutch their purses when they see black folk or other folk. Right? Because 9 times out of 10, the person who's going to steal your purse is somebody broke in your neighborhood, in your suburb, man, or one of their kids. It just is how it is. Human beings have more in common than different. Phenotype is not significant enough to make any meaningful impact. No, it's not. All right, so let's see what Mr. Chuck Morgan has to say. He's going to really lay out to you guys how this guy was guilty. All right, because we do have some delusional people who, till this day, are still trying to. I don't know, trying to tell themselves internally that he's innocent. All right.
So, as some people may be aware, in recent months, Nuwaubians, or what's left of them, are trying to get their leader, Dwight York, aka Malachi York, out of jail. Now, for those who don't know, Nuwaubians are a black supremacist cult who, from the 1970s roughly, who started out as Muslims, converted to Jews, converted to Christians, and pretended they were Native Americans. They also pretended they were aliens. They pretended they were Egyptologists. It's one of the weirdest cults in American history, probably. And what's interesting about this is that he was convicted of multiple counts of child rape and is currently serving 135 years in federal prison. So let me play a clip.
Thank you so much, Jado, for your gift. I could finally see them in the chat. They didn't used to highlight them for me, but thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are greatly appreciated. Wow, they're really fixing their little features there, because before people used to tell me, they would say it in the chat like, "Oh, you didn't see my gift," and I generally thought they were just BSing me, but I just saw it. So thank you so much, Cheeto, for your gift. I appreciate you and for supporting the channel. All right, let's continue.
Of his current lawyer discussing their attempts at getting him out of jail.
For instance, my client, Malachi York, was sentenced to 135 years in a federal prison with no possibility of parole for non-violent offenses. He had no significant criminal history prior to
Sorry, guys, my bad. I was what do you call it? I was on mute. I hope Gito heard me say thank you. I hope I unmuted for that. But it bothers me because how is that not a crime? How is that not a violent crime? That's a very violent crime, actually. Like I really don't get any of this. It's silly that someone would hear about sexual violence against children and say that it's not a crime or not a violent crime. Can you guys hear me now? It should have cleared up now. Is it? Did it clear out? Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. It should have cleared up now. It sounds like it did. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And for an attorney, mind you, this is someone who went to a college, got a Juris Doctorate, and she's sitting here in your face telling you that sexual violence is not a violent crime. Like that's ridiculous, and it's honestly demonic. There has to be a demonic energy over some people, like in these spaces, because I really don't understand these communities who sit here and normalize. Oh, first they normalize DV, they normalize violence like this against children, against women, against young girls. They really don't. There's no bounds, right? Everything is up for grabs. It's an egregious crime. For somebody to say that that's not violent is literally disgusting. Like it's really sick for a human, especially for it to be a woman, knowing that it's a bunch of children, young girls, who got caught up in this situation. To be saying that those aren't violent offenses or this is a first time, 77 times is not a first time. Just because you just got caught now doesn't mean that it's new crimes. This man has been committing these types of crimes for years, and he was just at that time getting convicted. Mind you, guys, this was in the 80s, I believe, he was being convicted. Let's continue.
Being arrested. And when he got into the justice system and he was on trial, there was no physical evidence, no DNA evidence, and he was sentenced to an unthinkable amount of time in prison.
Now, this is what I want to talk about because everything this lawyer has just said is a lie. Now, concerning the quote-unquote nonviolent offenses, one of the things that these guys like to do is that they like to play fast and loose with the facts. One of the things they like to ignore is that there was a state case and there was a federal case. In the federal case, which is the one where he got 135 years, yes, in theory, you could argue that these were nonviolent offenses because if you look at the charges, it was transporting minors, which might be nonviolent, except if you ignore that he was transporting the minors for unlawful sexual activity, namely child rape. And the other charges were structuring money to evade reporting requirements, which is when you send less than $10,000, so the money isn't reported. Meanwhile, the case that the Nuwaubians like to ignore is the state case, in which York pled guilty to 77 counts of aggravated child molestation and other things. And for that one, he's serving 50 years in prison. So let's keep in mind these you serve federal and state jail time at the same time. So it's 50. He does 50 years for the state stuff and 135 years at the same time for the federal stuff. So let's assume that these guys get their way and President Obama forgives him for the federal charges. He still has to do jail time for the state charges. And those state charges.
And I don't know why. I don't know why the hell people would be advocating for Obama to.
Aggravated child molestation are not nonviolent offenses. Now, the key thing that I want to focus on this video is how do we know that he actually raped those children? Now, first, some caveats. Because this case involves child victims, the Nuwaubians do have one advantage. That is the Child Victims and Child Witnesses Rights Act, which means that all these documents and all these criminal procedures are under seal. The amount of information that can be obtained publicly about this case is limited to what is not sealed, which is limited, and what was reported in the news. And this is something that Nuwaubians have been using for propaganda purposes because they can get away with arguing, oh, well, it's all sealed because it was a conspiracy. No, it's not a conspiracy. It's that the victims were minors, 9 years old, that under 18. And therefore...
And these people who defend stuff like this are so slow, right? Anybody knows that cases involving minors are going to be sealed, right? Even when the minor committed a crime, everything is going to be sealed. It's always been that way. So why they would be alluding to things being a conspiracy because it's under seal? Anything that involves a minor is going to be under seal. But you don't have to have a knowledge base really of anything to defend a demon. You can just get up there and do it based off of religious principle or whatever nonsense that you've been indoctrinated to. The patriarchy is very much so is in these spaces, especially where it's sort of a feigned patriarchy, right? It comes from a egotistical perspective, right? This weird ego-driven power that this leader has. That's where it really comes from. Yeah, it should be a crime. It should be, especially if you're gonna write a book or be a religious leader. Like, you gotta teach some people to read. If you're not teaching these people to read, what are you running a compound for? That's why so many of them are so easy to be, led, because they don't have a knowledge base. He's the one who raised them up.
therefore their information has, by federal law, has to be protected. That being said, I've copied this diagram, which is actually from a geology textbook, to introduce a concept that I'm going to be using in this video, and that is convergence of evidence. That is, if we have multiple pieces of evidence that we can obtain publicly, and they all point to one direction, we can reach a very strong conclusion of what the truth is. And in this case, we have multiple pieces of independently verifiable information that points to the fact that Dwight York was guilty of child molestation, child rape. The first data point is the easiest one to discuss because it's the most obvious one. Number one, York admitted to these crimes. He entered guilty pleas stating that he raped multiple children in state and federal court. And although Nuwaubians like to ignore this fact, York was not the only one that was accused of these things. Three of his wives, let me emphasize that, three of his wives, plural, were also charged with child molestation. The only one whose court result I was able to find is Kathy Johnson, who entered a guilty plea to the child molestation charges. That she knew about it and did not report it to the authorities. So not only did York admit to it,
And you guys heard him say, or you heard not him say, sorry, what they were saying in the interview with the FBI agent was that the women would go and bring him the children. Like they would, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's how they were being raised, was to go and bring him the children that he's picked out for whatever body parts or whatever. Like it was literally, this man was literally acting out his deviant fantasies within this community that he was pretending that he was going to uplift, right? That makes me wonder what somebody like a Umar or whatever would do if he had more people willing to pump money into him, right? Because a lot of people have donated to Umar, right? But imagine if everybody that he wanted to donate to him actually did. That man would have actually built a school, and it would have been a breeding ground for whatever degeneracy he wanted to get off, which is, it seems like what these leaders tend to do. All right, now let's let him walk him down for us, because he does walk him down in this video 100%, and all the people who try to claim that this is fake, right? Why would all his wives take plea deals and agree that, yes, we saw this happening, we didn't do anything about it? It makes no sense for people to still be saying he's innocent. All right, let's continue.
but his main wife admitted to doing these things. Now, the other thing about the guilty plea, which addresses the issue of physical evidence, is the timing of the guilty plea, as has been pointed out by Nuwaubianfacts.com, which I went ahead and verified. Malachi York did not enter the guilty plea until after, when was this? This was July 29th, when he was ordered to take STD tests for herpes viruses simplex 1 and 2. When the results for those tests came back positive, he entered guilty pleas in January 23rd. Now, at least in the federal case, he did actually withdraw that guilty plea, just to point that out. But he did not withdraw that plea until 9 months later. And let's keep in mind that he was found guilty.
So again, right, this is where things start to get diabolical. Okay, you and all the children who are claiming you're victims, not all of them, but you and some of the children you're claiming they're victims, have untreated STDs, and they're all the same essentially, right? What's the likelihood that this man is literally a breeding ground for infections, diseases, all types of disgusting things that he's doing there? It's truly sick, and for him to wait 9 months to recant the guilty plea, bro, come on, this is insane. They had the evidence already. It might not be direct physical evidence, but they had the evidence. Why does little baby have, or a little child, whatever the age was, doesn't matter, why do they have herpes simplex, which is literally the sexually transmitted version of herpes? There were other STDs that the kids had. And his lawyer's going to say, well, he didn't have those. Okay. Things that you can take a medicine to fix? Of course. But he wasn't helping those children. He was just using them like literal animals, cattle that he can abuse when he wanted, and then throwing them off to the side. It's really sad. It's sad that there were women and people just sitting there letting this continue.
January 23rd. Now, at least in the federal case, he did actually withdraw that guilty plea, just to point that out. But he did not withdraw that plea until 9 months later. And let's keep in mind that he was found guilty by a jury of his peers, even though he withdrew the guilty plea. Now, there's two things that needs to be discussed about the herpes test. As Richard Moultrie, which was a federal prosecutor, pointed out, the victims also had herpes. So, although this is not 100% evidence that he did rape those children, we have a very strong coincidence here in that the alleged rapist had herpes and the victims also had herpes. Now, one of the things that Nuwaubians like to point out is that Dwight York did not have chlamydia, while some of the victims did have chlamydia. Now, as was explained by Moultrie, and can be easily verified just by looking up any website that discusses chlamydia, chlamydia is an easily treatable disease, which means that the fact that Dwight York did not have chlamydia does not mean that he did not have sex with those children. It simply means that the possibility exists that he either infected those kids with chlamydia and then treated himself and left the kids untreated. Now, a second thing that needs to be also discussed here is that this guy was a religious leader, supposedly a holy man, yet he has sexually transmitted diseases. And by the same token, we have a situation in which children are infected with sexually transmitted diseases. So even if we assume that York did not rape those children, somebody must have, because they have herpes. Now, just for some more detail, we're going to go to the reply brief, which Dwight York's attorney, Adrian Patrick, filed in January 14th, 2005, to appeal his conviction. Now, as he argues in page 7, he argues that the government tried to combine RICO charges for structuring money with 4 counts of interstate transfers of transport of minors for unlawful sexual activity. Now, notice what the argument here is. He argues that if it were not for the RICO charges, because of the fact that the crimes occurred between 1988 through 1994, the statute of limitations would have expired. In other words, Adrian Patrick, Dwight York's attorney, admits that he did do these things. His argument is that because it occurred after the statute of limitation, the appeal should be overturned. The conviction should be overturned. Now, this gets even more ridiculous in section 5, in which he argues that, quote, in order for him to be convicted, they need to prove that the sexual activity was unlawful. In other words, Adrian Patrick here is conceding that York did have sex with these children, but he's arguing that it was not unlawful. And as we can see here, where was it? At the bottom of page 12, which for some reason is page 17 on my end, quote, the only evidence presented to the jury was that there was sexual activity. That's it. Sexual activity in and of itself is not a crime. Georgia law was necessary and was not presented. In other words, yes, Adrian Patrick does concede that physical evidence of sexual activity with minors was presented in court.
So, basically making his attorneys already. They said he's guilty. So what? Now we're gonna just try and find any technicalities to get him out of there. Look at these people in the comments. Chuck Morgan will never let this go. He has dedicated too much of his life to Dr. York, his doctor, and his case. He's obsessed with Dr. York. He's not working with a full deck. So the man who presents you all of the factual evidence is not working with a full deck, but you are? But you are still wanting to believe the doctrine of somebody who didn't even love his own people enough not to abuse them. I mean, some of these people just there's nothing there. The elevator, the light is on, but the elevator just doesn't go all the way up. The light is on, but nobody's home. They're cooked. The brains have to be cooked to sit here and act like this is not more than enough physical evidence. All of these children contracting STDs. Why would kids have STDs at this age? They're supposedly living in this commune uh, lifestyle. Who's assaulting them that they're getting these? Mind you, they mentioned that the smallest child that he assaulted was 3. So from 3 all the way up to 18, all these children have STDs, and we're just gonna act like what? Where is it coming from? You're the common denominator in all these children's lives. You're taking them away from their parents and raising them how you want to. I mean, it's ridiculous. All right. So, I wanted to move on from this video. I was going to listen to some nonsense from this idiot in the prison talking to his attorney, but I want to move on because I really want to break down what I was trying to do here in terms of laying out a pattern that's kind of surfacing with these cult leaders and cult types, right? And some of them you'll find might even go to the extreme of taking on the ideology of that person. All right, they might even go to that extreme of taking on the ideology of somebody who is already being exalted in this way. They want to assume that power, that influence, right? And this is kind of what I think was going on over here. So, for those of you who have watched a lot of the info that Mr. Taz has put out there in terms of Dr. Malachi and Brother Polite and all these weird consciousness people who have turned predators, right? We're going to see this very awful man who in 2024 also had his own conviction sit here and praise Dr. Malachi just for us to find out where he is in the present day. All right, let's see this.
See, I'm speaking on behalf of the
Mind you, this was in this, what does it say this right here? What time? 7 years ago. So what are we looking at? 2018, 17, maybe even before that, because this looks like an older clip, right? But we see what's going on here, right? This is a black dusty bandit. Sorry, I'm just saying it like that to be funny. I don't mean it in a derogatory way, just like some of you bandits and mammies coming here acting, but like this man really sat here in the face of somebody who was, I believe, was actually a victim of Dr. Malachi and acted like he was full of it. Yeah, it seems like some do, Victorious One. It seems like some do, right? Because essentially what he's doing in this video is worshiping and, kind of wanting to be Dr. Malachi. And Dr. Malachi is a deviant, essentially. So, all right, let's watch this.
the children or the people that had to testify or that testified.
Had to testify based on what that he did do something to them.
Well, I say had to testify because some people didn't testify. So some people felt it in that they had to do this, like it's something that they had to do. For me, it felt like it was something that I had to do because one, like I told you, both my sisters went through the same thing I went through.
And
Both of my older sisters.
do you mind sharing? I don't know nothing.
Sharing what? Okay, well, both of my sisters been molested
By who?
by Malachi York, by Pops, Barbara, Esau, Mom Esau, whatever. He has sex with them, and they
At
was
what ages?
At what ages? I mean, you know, if you want to get the accurate number, you can ask them.
Around what age? You know,
I
I
mean,
ain't trying to be
13,
technical.
14, 7, 8. You know, and I will only speak for myself as far as the
Yeah, no
personal
doubt.
thing
Of
that
course.
I've been through.
Of course, you.
And as far as if, you know.
And there's something to be said about people who will jump in front of a predator like this to support them, right? Because mind you, this video predates anything we learned about Naker Polite, right? Because we know that this bandit is currently in prison for attacking a woman a little girl that exact age, 13, a woman's daughter that he was dating is what I was trying to say. But a girl who was about 14, I believe, all right, who was entrusted to him by the mother. Now, people could say whatever they want about who this woman gave her kid to, but this was somebody that the conscious community was uplifting. This idiot was actually uplifting another conscious community person who had actually done the same thing. And people were surprised that this type of accusation came out on him. He was literally glorifying the man to the point where he's attacking a victim. Right? He's telling him, well, what exactly happened? How old were they? What are they trying to find an out? He didn't even care what happened to this man. Anybody who jumps in front of a predator like that, you have to question them. There's nothing normal about that at all. I would have no reason to jump in front of a predator just because she's a black woman. I would have no reason to. So I don't understand how he justifies this. And then boom, karma comes back for this dusty bandit. Comes for his hairline too, because he definitely don't have that whack ass afro on his head anymore. And the truth about who he is comes out. Now, Black Beauty was in here a couple minutes ago talking about, and I hope she's here now, but talking about, what do they call him? Baby York, right? Why would they call him that, right? Are they alluding that he had the same charismatic abilities to fool the people in these environments? Is that what they're really alluding to? All right, let's continue.
And I don't want to get graphic. One, you know, okay, I'm a dude. I'm not going to be walking around saying that I've been molested, this, and that happened. As a man, you don't want to be going around saying that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when in my situation or the way I grew up, I was ready to move on. I left in 2001. I was ready to just live my life, move on, whatever. You know what I'm saying? The people started doing the investigations and stuff. The FBI started doing the investigation, started trying to get statements from people. Both my sisters went ahead and gave their statements.
Yeah.
I still had nothing to do with it. No statement, no nothing. When I realized, okay, they're about to go to court. You know, and I went through the same thing that they went through. Like, I'm my mother's only son. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the man of the family. You know what I'm saying? My sisters were going to stand up for themselves, and I'm, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, well, and then that's when I gave my statement. And that's when I decided that, you know, that I was going to go ahead and do it. Nobody wants to see they family go get locked away. So I really understand how hard it is for people that's deeply involved in it also. And people got to understand, I was born and raised in it too. So I understand from inside out also what it feels like not to have this person around still giving leadership. You know, so it's not no stranger, no random person that's saying, oh, this happened. I mean, this started like, I was 7 years old. You know what I'm saying? I was upstate New York after Brooklyn. You know, I was upstate New York when he first, you know, touched me or whatever, in molested, you know. And so from 7 to 14, 7 years that I went through this, you know what I'm saying? And that's my story.
Would you say there's been over 20 children molested by Dr. York?
I would say so. I mean, I would say that it was, you know, if I could confirm people that I could strongly confirm, it would be about 15 or 20 people.
Obviously, if over 15 to 20 children were being molested, we have to now say, how come the adults wasn't saying nothing? Shouldn't they be locked up with Dr. York too? How come they're free to testify about it?
You understand the adults were separated from their children. You know, so you had the girls in one house, the boys in one house, the women in one place, the brothers in one place. You know, everybody was separated, so it wasn't no house with a family, and then you could recognize when your child is gone.
Exactly. See, that's the crazy part, right? The way that house was set up, the way that they were living, it was made to specifically make those children vulnerable, have no protection, right? Have nobody there to have oversight over what's going over them. It was by design, right? And then being indoctrinated into these belief systems. I guess it's because he looked up to him or something after. Yeah, I mean, like, to me, I don't know what he's trying to do here in talking to this man this way. This man is literally telling you that he was a 7-year-old when this man first assaulted him, and you have some nerve to sit here and act like, well, those adults should be in jail too. No, he should go under the jail for doing what he did, and then we can talk about why all these adults as well sat there, right? Because 3 women, as you heard, were charged as well, right, for their part in actually bringing children to him. So what is this all about? He didn't care anything about justice. It was about muddying up the conversation. It was about antagonizing a victim, because that's what this is here. This is not seeking justice. This is literally you just being an asshole and wanting to stand on whatever disgusting beliefs that you've been indoctrinated on, because it goes along with what you want to do, what you want to put out in the world. It's really disgusting. Hey, North Star. I remember this, and the man he was talking to did the same thing to his wife's child. This is Brother Polite. This is Brother Polite. The same Brother Polite. Okay? This is the same Brother Polite who literally ended up charged with assaulting his girlfriend's child. 7 years later, right? You sit here, you run your mouth to a victim, you attack him, you look him in his eyes and treat him like what he went through doesn't matter. And now you're sitting in jail for 7 years. And that's because you took a plea deal, because it could have been a lot more. It could have been up to 40 years in jail had he not taken a plea. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting behavior, and it all comes full circle. You don't have to just put this nasty information out there and tell the world what you think, and say, well, I believe that this man is innocent. Because what? Because you like his ideology? Because you bought into the bullshit? Because somebody gave you a few dollars when you were saying his same whatever rhetoric? It's really nasty that people just sit here and do stuff like this and don't think that they're going to have to pay for it one day. He's exactly where he deserves to be for defending that weirdo. He called him father. Dr. York is worse than Diddy. Polite is the spawn Dr. York created. Is Polite one of his spawn children? Because he had so many goddamn children, there's no way to know who was what. And if he is a spawn of that creature, then he's exactly where he needs to be. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Thank you so much, Miss Chakra. She says, hey, Flora, I'm listening to Clouds. Great topic. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to be doing a lot more, covering a lot more of these types, more relevant cases, because it's interesting. Polite was just charged last year. This is the same dude who got up there and defended Dr. York. Now, if he is his literal spawn, then it's pretty clear that the universe is cleaning up the trash that unfortunately has been out for too long. Hopefully, Diddy is some of the trash that they're cleaning up as well, because honestly, that whole thing has been incredibly disappointing. Yeah, there's a lot of evil. This is why I side-eye people that go hard for these monsters. Yeah, because they'll never sit through these videos and really look at the real information. It's so easy to tell people, oh, he's been railroaded. It's the white man. It's the government. COINTELPRO, pulling out every terminology, pre-civil rights or civil rights terminology that they can think of. They're pulling it out to sit here and excuse this. But if you really look down at all this, look at who the victims are. This is people that look just like you. These are the people that look just like you that they want you to believe aren't worthy of being believed. They want you to continue to sit there and support somebody who hurt people that look just like you. And y'all keep falling right into it. I don't see how people don't see the type of programming that this is the type of program we need to resist. This right here. Falling into these pro-black male, Moorish, whatever. Because as you guys saw in the beginning of this video, he comes from a Moorish background. A Moorish, Hebrew, Israelite, Nakerlite, Bandit-like whole culture that's being mixed into this. It's a bunch of different cultures that nobody even knows. Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, Jewish. I mean, they don't even have a solid belief system. It's just a bunch of nonsense mashed up together, hoping that people fall for it. And people do. They're desperate. They need something to love, something to attach onto, right? And the more isolated they feel from the people around them, the more susceptible they are to this. It's truly sad. The enablers and flying monkeys are the worst because they are brainwashed and dangerous. Yes, it's really sad. There is no gender to a flying monkey. There's no. It'll be men and women doing this nonsense. There's women. I don't know if you were hearing it, but there's women who literally are in jail right now because they brought children to him. That was their role, going and seeking out the children that he was sexually attracted to. This is a deviant. So the fact that in this day and age, there are people who will sit here underneath videos like this and act like this is all a lie and he's innocent and sit here and support this bald-headed bastard over here to the point that he was able to attack another child in present day just like his father. If that's the truth, if that's the real belief, because I have heard that a whole bunch. Otherwise, we will never change for the better. I understand we need to keep our own account. Yes, it comes to a point where we have to be the ones wanting to police ourselves. We have to be the ones having these conversations. We can't wait for the greater society to do it. We can't keep making excuses and acting like crimes are real. Oh, that's white people stuff. That no, this is shit that happens in our backyards every day that people let go on, and they just continue and they become cyclical and cyclical and cyclical until we've got a whole 9, 10 generations of people who have all been gaslit and lied to and made to believe that their experiences, the violence that they experienced wasn't real, that it wasn't bad, that they're alive, that they're liars, that they're fast, right? That's the things. That's some of the terminology that they probably use against girls in those environments who are being manipulated by this old bastard. That's the language we use when we're talking about what's happening to our girls, to our children. You guys wonder why so many women today are scared to have. Why the hell we gonna have kids? For what? So put them next to these bandits? And I'm using bandits for what it really, the real definition is. The lawlessness going on in the community, the way people just go around doing this degeneracy, nobody's willing to speak up. That is true bandit culture, and that's what is going on. That's what's running amok in the community, and nobody is willing to talk about it. People just want to act like, oh, it's all the establishment, the white man, the white man. White man did one thing: took you niggas from a continent, brought you here, beat the hell out of y'all for a couple 100 years, and then set you free. Since then, everything that's happened, honestly, a lot of the mistakes that are happening today within our communities, it's being perpetuated by us. And we could blame the establishment as far back as we want to, but we need to deal with the present. Why is this normal? Why are there so many families that have secrets like this? That's the problem. This man was being born into an environment that secrets and lies and degeneracy was being festered. Nobody was dealing with it. And now you have this old weirdo literally badgering a victim, and people are acting like he was brave in defending Dr. York. And the more he talks, I'm really starting to think it was his dad. That's crazy. All right, let's continue.
None of these children had enough sense in their mind to go tell their parent that this is
None
not
of the.
some.
Oh my God, I didn't even hear that other sentence. Whew. You see, it'd be hard to consume the stupidity that comes out of these people's mouths, especially once you realize that this man has just been convicted of doing something just as degenerate to somebody else's kid.
I've been touched sexually. I've been sexually abused. Not one child out of all these children. It could have stopped so long ago if just one child or just one adult. What caused all of this to come out? First, you hear nothing from nobody. Yeah. You hear nothing from nobody. Then you hear something from everybody.
So that's a lie.
So
So Naker Light, that's a lie, right? Because the FBI who were just discussing this literally told them that there were people who were seeing plenty of things, but there was no solid evidence. They just saw people going into the rooms. They saw relationships and things that were happening that didn't look healthy. And what happened? There was no evidence. What is this guy talking about? He has no, and this is the problem. Most of the people who discuss these things have no idea what they're talking about. None. They just come out of thin air and make excuses for people like this, and we're just supposed to believe them? I mean, it's a shame on him, really.
I had been the medium to talk to anybody about the situation.
Not even their parents.
I mean, that's why, of course. I could have talked to I could have told my mother.
We chose not to.
It's not that I chose not to. To really explain it would really take a lot. But I mean, you're not really yourself when you're not. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no esteem. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no. You know what I'm saying? You can't even face like. My mother had to, when she found out from my sister, and she came to me and asked me about it, and I still really couldn't even tell her. I had to say, well, I had sex with the girl, and he was there. And that was my way of telling her that, yeah, it happened. You know what I'm saying? But that's when the initial conversation, and this is like 2 weeks before we left. It was something I was under. I couldn't tell my mom. I didn't tell nobody. It was something that
right, and that's how you normalize children having poor boundaries and not knowing who to trust, right? When you just take them out of their home environments, the safety of their families, and you put them in these environments with a bunch of other children and a bunch of other adults that are being exploited. I mean, none of those people are going to be helped to you. They're all being exploited. They're all part of the machine. Does that mean that everyone is blameless? No, that's why there was grown women who ended up with charges. But the fact of the matter is, how is any of those people around there supposed to help him? Mind you, he's talking to a person who was victimized at 7 years old. So I don't see how anybody saw this lack of empathy and wasn't disgusted by it. I mean, some people praise this nonsense because I do remember when we were reviewing this back in the day, and there were people praising this, that he was willing to ask the tough questions like he was an interview or something. Like, nigga, you're not CNN. You got a nigga recording you on an iPhone. Like, this, there was nothing professional about this. You're just a dusty bandit who wanted to be a flying monkey for a predator.
that held me to not say nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because I looked up to him as my dad. Because I looked up to him as the person that he was. I thought he was a God figure. I thought he, and all those reasons, like, I'm trying to like see what the why is this going on? What's the significance? I'm young. I don't even know what we're really in the sex and I don't even.
Why do you think he's locked up for 135 years, underground 60 feet, in a super max penitentiary with no one with a case likened to his own amongst cannibals?
Because he's a predator?
Think he should?
Because he has 70 victims, because he's a predator, because his victims were children, because all the victims have STDs. I mean, there's a number of reasons why they would put him away like he's the animal that he is. So again, like, I'm starting to really understand the theory that he was baby York, right? He even looks like the little crunchy bastard. The children were working up to 24 hours a day going against labor laws. Yeah, because the only way that they can keep that musty machine going, right, was to get whatever financial support they were getting through membership fees, obviously charging people fees to be part of the church, like tithes and stuff like that, and then outside donations. So for them to sustain themselves, yes, they were going to have to do a lot of the work there themselves. That's the things about these compounds. They become breeding grounds for child exploitation in general, not even just of the sexual neighbors. There's labor exploitation of children, where kids aren't being allowed to get an education or any other life skills. They're just working on their family business that used to be farms, used to be manufacturing and all that, right? They would raise the kids up to become workers. That's not the only type of he wasn't just exploiting them in that sexual way. He was exploiting them in general. He was exploiting them, the people around them, and yes, he had a lot of enablers, but that's his whole MO was exploitation.
Be locked up for? Why you think he's locked up?
Well, I mean, to answer your question in the way that I think you're asking it, you know what I'm saying? Because one, you have a black leader that was getting black people together and was building a sovereign nation.
Tell me if this is something you believe. That's what,
you don't have to say that, young man. And I mean, he's somebody who is probably still recovering from that manipulative lifestyle. So even this type of interview could be very harmful for his mental health. Or you think this ugly black bastard cares at all? He don't care what he's saying to this young man. He don't care how he's impacting his mental health. His bottom line is to make Malachi York look like he was some type of innocent person. But karma took care of him at least. It's disgusting, Chakra. I think it becomes cyclical though. It's like one person does it and then people just keep doing it, and the more people refuse to talk about it, the more it just spreads and spreads and spreads until the degeneracy is far and wide. And it's unfortunate that a bunch of people have to suffer because people don't want to be real about what's happening. That's the major underlying issue here. All right, let's continue. Actually, we heard enough from this idiot because he's pissing me off anyways. But let's see what happened in present day with the said bandits who we actually just heard from. All right, let me pull up the video that I was trying to play. Because we know this idiot recently went through some nonsense. And not only that, but where's my video that I was trying to play? Ew, that is not what I was trying to play. Sorry guys, my video I accidentally pressed back and left from it, so I gotta go to my history. That's not the one I was looking at. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna play this video for you guys, not because I believe necessarily that the person talking in this video has some stellar information or anything like that, but he touches on an issue with this guy because I don't understand how the judge let him keep the plea deal, considering how much media manipulation he was doing. Right? I think if you go to jail, if you go to court and you take a plea, and then you go into the public and you lie about that, I think they should rescind the plea and just make you take the charges for whatever you got charged for. Because honestly, it's a lot of manipulation. These people use their influence to get money and other support, and for them to be able to manipulate people that way, knowing that there's a different outcome that really happened, it's crazy. Until the quota was met, it was weekly. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, imagine women and children, like the women not getting basic sanitary products that they need, hygienic products for the babies, for themselves, babies that he's creating on top of that. Like, it's insane. All right, let's watch this video. Do me a favor, guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, share, subscribe. We're kind of landing the plane a little bit. I'm going to cover a little bit of Brother Polite. We're going to look at a little bit of Nature Boy, and then I'm going to get out of here, guys. I do want to continue to do some more cults, so you guys might see me come back and do like 3 more cult videos this week. Because there's some crazy ones, and there's some really intense ones that I think we do need to talk about. There's been someone that you guys have mentioned in the chat that I want to do some more research on. So if you're enjoying the content, do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe, support the channel, all that. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, let's continue.
If you hit a man in time, his wounds will heal. And if you steal from a man, you can replace what you steal. And always cross in the green, never in between.
Previously on the Trey King Show.
This is the mugshot of 37-year-old Michael Nuwaubian Jr., also known as Brother Polite, to his more than 300,000 Instagram followers. Miami Beach police arrested Nuwaubian this week for alleged sexual battery of a 14-year-old girl in a hotel room in February. Police say the alleged victim was the daughter of a woman he was romantically linked.
Yo, YouTube, what's going on? Trey back again, hit y'all.
This is kind of where like I would like to start to interwove. I forget how to say that. Interweave some of these conversations about the mammies, right? Because there's something in you that has to not be there, as a woman, as a mother, as a wife. To kind of sort of play into a lot of this. Like, whatever need for acceptance and validation that you have is being overridden here, right? Like there's something in that needs to be discussed, because I don't understand honestly how, like I said, how these people gave up their children to this man, right? In terms of Dr. Malachi. Now, in terms of brother Polite, it's the same thing. This manipulation that they have, the influence that they have, it makes people feel more trusting, right? It was her partner. I really don't even understand why the girl was going somewhere with him at night, right? But a lot of the times, these types of environments and communities, they do make you feel like, you're with somebody who's positive, who is special. She probably thought like, oh, this is a good man from the conscious community. He's a good example for my kid, right? And a lot of the times, those boundaries, they start to fall. They start to fall significantly, and this is where the predators jump in. And he was a predator, so he was right there and ready to jump. Let's continue.
Video. Hope y'all having a very great day. Hope y'all had a very great weekend also. My day is going absolutely fantastic. Big shout out to all the channel members and subscribers of the Trey King Show family. And much love to each and every last one of you all. And you all, we have an update to a story that I did a while back about Brother Polite, yes, and those serious allegations that was opposing Brother Polite. But Brother Polite went to court last week, and yes, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison for his alleged crimes. Now, I told you all back in July the 10th, when I first did this video, that most likely Brother Polite will be taking a plea bargain. And he definitely took a plea bargain. But that's not the most concerning thing. Even though Brother Polite pled guilty in court by his own merits, he wanted to come out on Instagram and basically tell the people that, look, all his sex charges was dropped, even though he's still going to prison for sex charges, and that was no semen found on the victim, even though the serologist, and a serologist is the person who performed these semen analysis, even though the serologist stated otherwise, that yes, it was semen found. But Brother Polite took to Instagram.
And he understood that he could influence his following, the people who followed, just the whole greater conscious community or whatever. He understood that what he said, people would hang on to it, right? Yeah, I like the TK show too. But I know sometimes people don't like when you insert like the videos that you like. But at the end of the day, it's like people refuse to see the truth. They were just listening to him, because anybody who was following at the time, including a lot of popular YouTubers and stuff, were looking at the actual court documents. It was egregious what he did to that girl. She had bruising on her mouth, on her body. He's a deviant. So for the fact that people were willing to listen to him versus the fact that it's literally read in by his attorney that he took a plea deal for those charges. There was physical evidence. I mean, he wouldn't have taken a plea deal if there wasn't, right? So it's very weird that he would go online and play this whole media campaign and have people really believe that he wasn't going to jail just for him to take a plea and go to jail. And people still support him from jail. Like, it's ridiculous, honestly. I don't know what people, it's like people just want to be stuck in a loop of degeneracy, because that's the only way. There's no way you can't see all of this.
Just like he used to do before all this took place, basically trying to, make himself look good, even though a lot of people are definitely calling him out. And good thing that you people are definitely calling him out on this. But you have to ask yourself, first of all, how and why did you get caught up in this mess? And why did you allow this to happen to you? And sir, also know when to hush and know when to just fold them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to know when to sit down. And now for those who don't know the backstory about Brother Polite and these
and he's arrogant. That's the thing. I mean, he's going around to all these different Vlad TV, No Jumper. I mean, he was all over the place. I don't know if he was actually on No Jumper, but I know he did several popular podcast interviews, because people are just exalting this man way above anything that he's proven for the community or actually shown that he's done. Like, he's just running around as like an influencer, essentially. And he has no real background or proof to show that he's even worth being exalted in that way. At least you could say, and this is not to excuse anything that he did, but at least you could say that what's his face was pulling in the support, his daddy, Mr. Malachi, right? At least he was pulling in that financial support, and that's what people were hanging on to. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but he had something to offer. These men now, they're just influencers looking to exploit the first person who will give them access. That's essentially what he did. He probably got into the relationship with this woman after probably started taking her more seriously once he saw who her child was. That's how these predators work. That's how they are, right? A lot of the time they look for soft targets.
Allegations. Brother Polite was a popular social media influence, one of these pro-black type guys and everything out of New York with Sinetta. And his message was very good at first, even though he lost his way. And this is what happened when you lose your way, because if you would have came out the way you would have came out when you first came out on YouTube with Sinetta, chances are you may not even be in trouble till this day. But Brother Polite rose to social media fame with Sinetta, along with the conscious black community in New York, even though a lot of that kind of died down by now. But what's even sad about that whole episode was the moment that he got a little money, that's when he wanted to dish the black people. And then, of course, he wanted to go be with the white folks. And nothing wrong with doing that. But at the same time, how can you be pro-black and talk about black empowerment when you abandon your people? Next thing you know, we see you on social media taking pictures with white women and also white celebrities. And once again, no offense to anybody white out there. I'm just making a point. So you can see clearly when his brother got some money, he just told the people to hell with them. So, you cannot take people like this too seriously. But anyway, what allegedly took place in Florida back in 2021 was Brother Polite had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend was said to have a daughter, a 14-year-old daughter. Now, it's two different stories that was being told. The first story was that Brother Polite took the girl to the club, and the club was closed. In some kind of way, the 14-year-old girl wound up back at Brother Polite motel room around 2 a.m. And the girl was said to be drugged and also very drunk and intoxicated. And she passed out. And when she woke up, there were semen stains on her. Now, one story was reported that it was in her mouth, and the other story was reported that the semen stain was on her shirt. Now, Brother Polite also said that, look, in his Instagram post that he just did a couple of days ago,
and I wish people would give trigger warnings when they mention sensitive topics like that. So, trigger warning. Obviously, the whole subject is a trigger warning, but. Right.
Oh, she go check that out. Also, just listen to more of what he got to say. We're not even gonna call it a lot because I'm gonna let you make your own assumption. But anyway, he had the nerve to say on his Instagram video that it wasn't no semen stains found, even though he had to submit his DNA back, I think back in 2021, as you all see at the bottom. He had to submit his DNA, and also the serologist, the person who does semen analysis, stated there was semen stains found on his 14-year-old girl. So remember, the first story said that Brother Polite took the 14-year-old girl to the club with the mom's permission, even though the mom totally denied that. Now, there's a second story going around where they say that the mom and daughter was having problems, and he wanted to go downstairs and talk to the daughter about her mom and how good of a mom that she had, and basically some things took place there. Now, those are two different stories. But anyway, I'm going to ask you all this before I dig deeper into the story. What person in their right mind pleads guilty to a sex charge and end up getting 7 years in prison, 10 years probation, and also a $25,000 restitution or fine if they're not guilty? And let me ask you good people this right here. Would you take a plea deal on something that you didn't do, especially something involving a sex offense?
Nope.
And I want you all to think about this also. What social media person in their right mind who is a public figure, got a name for themselves, is going to take a plea deal like this unless they're guilty? Now, I'm not saying that he's guilty, but I'm asking you what person would do that unless they're guilty. Now, he wants you all to believe that those sex charges were dropped, but at the same time, think about this, family. He is still going to prison for sex charges. So once again, ask yourself, how can a man be going to prison for sex crimes if those sex charges was dropped? Because to drop means to drop the whole damn case.
Right. And the thing that they don't, this is what manipulative, liar, narcissist, dusty bastards do, right? They'll make these claims about plea deals. Plea deals are oftentimes, they're made to save the court money, right? To save the victims rehashing trauma and things like that, right? And a lot of the times, there's lesser charges for these criminals. Lesser charges. Much lesser. So yes, they will sometimes knock charges off in exchange for still keeping things on there that they want. Like, for example, they didn't want this guy to just go free. They want him to serve 7 years. They also want him to pay restitution to the victim, which I don't think is enough money. I think every victim who goes through something like this should get millions of dollars, but where would we get all the money from, right? Restitution, $25,000, and he also has to be on probation for 10 years, which means even after he gets out jail, it could be up to 20 years of state supervision total. Right? He commits one act while he's on probation, back to jail. They don't do that for innocent people. So I don't even understand how people saw all of this and they still listen to his Instagram posts, or they saw all of this and they still follow his channel and consider him to be a good leader. I don't care what the hell you were saying. If you are doing foul nonsense behind the scenes, everything you are saying null and void. I don't want to hear nothing about it no more. I don't care if people say separate the message from the. No, sorry, whole message tainted. If it's coming from you, if you were entrusted with the message and this is what you are doing, keep it. Choke on it. There's nothing of value coming from that person or that message at that point. That's how I feel about it. All right, let's continue and see a little bit more on this. And then we'll look at Mr. Nature Boy. Then I'll get you guys out of here. We're at 2 hours and 4 minutes. Trying to wrap it a little bit, but also want to make sure that we're in depth and a little bit more thorough. So do me a favor and hit the like button, share, subscribe, and I'll appreciate it.
And the reason why there was a plea bargain deal because the family had to accept this plea bargain deal. That's just the way it goes. It's just like when people that are in prison for murder. When those people go for parole, guess what the parole board do? They notify the victim's family. So in case if that victim family want to be there and speak out against it, or if they want to speak good for the person, or if they want to speak bad for the person, depending on the family, because the parole board take all that seriously. So the same thing with a plea bargain when you're dealing with victims. You get what I'm saying? Because the victims have to accept the plea deal also, because in this case, you have a victim. And the only reason why I can see why this family will accept it was the fact that, of course, you're going to be punished for your alleged crime, but at the same time, that's to keep the 14-year-old girl from having to go to trial and stand trial and having her identity revealed to the public. So it would be in the family's best interest to protect the identity of the 14-year-old girl, because you would not want your 14-year-old daughter around on social media testifying against these type of allegations. But anyway, we'll break the rest down as I read a snippet from the story. I'm going to read a quick snippet from this story, and I am going to give my opinion, all of it. Surely, as we go, Brother Polite sentenced to 7 years in prison for serious sex charges. Anyway, now in August, it was revealed that Brother Polite's ex-girlfriend asked him to take her teenage daughter to a party in Miami. Reports stated that the club they went to were closed, so Brother Polite, whose real name is Michael Noah, took the teen back to his hotel room and gave the youngster alcohol and touched her inappropriately, says the news source, not the Trey King show, because I hear he's saying that he's going to sue these bloggers. And just like he said on Instagram, those lawsuits are going to be litty. But I'm going to tell you this, you cannot sue no blogger or no person as long as they're not lying on you. Now, they're telling the truth, and then you got facts to back it up, along with court cases, court documents, and also credible news sources. Guess what? You have no case. See, that's an attempt that he is using to try to make the people want to be quiet and try to scare them from people who really don't know.
And that's literally what they did with his father situation, if it's really his father. I'm over here calling his father, Malachi, his father. But that's exactly what was done with Malachi York. Till this day, you have a lot of delusional people who come from those conscious community environments who literally don't want to tell the truth about Malachi. They will try to act like his message can be separated from who he was. And if you're some sort of prophet, you do some nastiness like this, I'm sorry, your message is out the window. Your message is out the window. No one's going to take anything that you're saying serious or real because you are doing harm. Right? Spirituality, religiousness, these types of things are supposed to be like a harm reduction factor in your life. But if the religion and the spirituality that you choose to believe in causes this much violence in your life, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not even worth being involved in.
But look here, let me tell you people this. As long as you're not pulling a Tasha K and a Cardi B, just flat out lying on somebody, guess what? You can talk all the mess you want to. Anyway, let's continue. Now, reports also claim that Noah forced the teen to perform intimate acts on him, and also it was revealed that he tried to make her throw up after she passed out. Now, ask yourself this right here. Why would a man try to make a teenage girl pass out? First of all, why is a grown man alone with a teenage girl around 2 a.m. in the damn morning? Let's just be for real. What is 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Why was you alone with this child around that time of night? That's what I want to know right there, because you want us to believe one thing when the facts clearly point towards something else. Now, let me ask you all this right here for you men out there and also you women, but really for you men. Would you be alone with your girlfriend daughter or even your own daughter? But we talking about your girlfriend daughter. Would you be alone with your girlfriend daughter at 2 a.m. in the damn morning? No matter if you were talking about how good of a mom she had, or even if the mom and her had problems, or trying to take her somewhere, why would you be in this 14-year-old girl's face at 2 a.m. in the damn morning? The whole story don't even make no sense. Anyway, let's continue. Now, reports also revealed that the teen's mother eventually found her daughter intoxicated and potentially drugged up. Now, how did she get intoxicated? And also, how did she get drugged up? Because the last time I checked, a 14-year-old girl cannot go to no store and buy alcohol. And unless this 14-year-old girl have connects with people who have weed or any kind of drugs that she may have been on, guess what? How in the hell did she get those drugs in her possession? And sir, once again, why was you alone with this child at this time of night? Even though you're saying that you're totally innocent in this whole situation. But guess what? None of it lines up. And after the mom found her daughter intoxicated and drugged up with potential semen stains on her, that's when Brother Polite was charged with sexual battery to aggravated child abuse and also delinquency of a minor. So, sir, once again, if they don't have no damn evidence, how in the hell did you have all these charges? And why would you come on social media telling these people that all your sex charges was dropped when clearly you're still going to prison? So once again, to my people out there who got their thinking caps on today, ask yourself this. Why would a guy still be going to prison for charges that he was once accused of if those charges was dropped? So that means one thing. Those charges was never dropped. You took a plea bargain. You pled guilty.
And that's what a liar will say. Oh, I took a plea. I took a plea so I can have less time. So you're willing to admit to the government, right? To the courtroom. Yeah, this happened to me. Or not that, sorry, not this happened to me. Yes, I did this. Sorry, guys. I'm running on like 3.5 hours of sleep. I couldn't sleep last night. But yeah, I did that in exchange for a plea deal. You got to pay restitution. You have to be registered as actually, no, I think that's the thing, that he doesn't have to register for life as a sex offender. I think that was part of the plea as well. He still wanted to be able to be around and near children, is what I'm assuming, is why he didn't want to be on that registry. Which I don't even know how they are able to negotiate that out of their plea deals. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there should be I think you should, regardless of what plea you get, there should never be an ability to negotiate out lifetime registry in the offender list, because this is just a pure offender. Like, this is not somebody that you should ever allow to feel safe around kids. He should always be afraid to be around children. I don't even want to be in my own child's face at 2 a.m. Take your ass to bed. Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, it's not normal that this man was trying to spend time with her, was giving her substances, was with her alone. You know, there's inconsistencies in the story, flat out lying to the social media after he took a charge and then went and turned himself in. I mean, it's ridiculous. He did that to keep his cons up. His wife still run his con. Oh, you know what? Listen, somehow these bandits are able to do remote banditry because they have women that are willing to stay and continue the nonsense, right? This is why books like the Miami DSM are so important, you know, because this is terminology otherwise we don't have anywhere else, that we recognize because we live in these cultures and we understand and we see it, right? That there are women who are willing to keep this nonsense going, regardless of the damage that they're doing to the people around them, to the other generations that are growing up in that lifestyle. I mean, it's truly sick. And I can't believe he has a wife. How does he have a wife? Like, somebody probably married him while he was in jail. That's the ridiculousness that you can expect. All right, let's continue.
Anyway, let's go and wrap it up. Now, he has since come forward and claims that the charges have been dropped, as if we dumb as hell. And also, the 40-year-old took to his official Instagram account to announce that the sex charge was dropped. He claimed that the prosecution and the alleged victims dropped every single sexual charge. But sir, once again, you're going to prison for those same sex charges. So how in the hell will the charges drop, but you're still going to prison for 7 years, and you're going to be on probation for 10 years, and you got to pay $25,000 restitutional fee to the victim. So sir, and you also have to complete a sex offender class. So sir, once again, how in the hell will these charges drop? Anyway, he falsely claimed that he was facing a life sentence with no parole and probation as well. How in the hell was you facing a life sentence for that? That's what I want to know right there.
See, this is the thing, right? These abusers and these demons. Oh, I was they dropped the charges. They dropped the DV, they dropped the essay, right? But somehow they still have to get education around being a predator and being an abuser, right? But somehow the charges were dropped. Very interesting. All right, so now I'm gonna play for you guys. Sorry, I was kind of stalling while I was pulling up this video here. Now I'm gonna play for you guys what they actually read out in court, what the sentencing was, and his belief on whether or not he was guilty of these said charges. All right, this is what was going on in court, not on YouTube, not on Instagram, not in a Naker Light Reddit post, none of that.
Okay, can you tell me your full name and date of birth? Michael Eugene Noak Jr., August 10th, 1983. All right, thank you. You were originally charged under case number F21-14438.
And the deviant is only 2 years older than me. That is disgusting. A young deviant. A young deviant. Mm-mm-mm.
With the following charges: lewd and lascivious molestation on a child, a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years state prison. Count 2 was lewd and lascivious molestation on a child, 12 to 16 years, a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years state prison. Lewd and lascivious conduct on a child under 16 by a defendant 18 or over, a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years state prison. Count 4, lewd and lascivious exhibition on a child under 16 years, defendant over 18, a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years state prison. And contributing to the dependency of a child, a first-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail. And then count 6 is interference with custody, a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years state prison. The state has now filed an amended information today, charging you with the following: aggravated child abuse, great bodily harm, a first-degree felony, punishable by up to 30 years state prison. Count 2 is aggravated child abuse, great bodily harm, a first-degree felony, punishable by up to 30 years state prison. And contributing to the dependency of a child, a first-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail. It is my understanding that you wish to plead guilty to this new information. You would be adjudicated guilty, and your sentence has been memorialized in a 4-page plea agreement. Did you have the opportunity to go over this plea agreement with your lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. I do need the defendant to initial each page because there are not initials on these pages. All right. Let me know when it's done.
So those are literally the charges that he pled guilty to. Obviously, every charge that he was accused of initially was charges that he was found guilty to. They were just adjusted for the situation, so that the sentencing guidelines were a little different, and they were able to offer him that plea deal of 7 years. All right, this man is guilty of sin, and that's why he's in jail. But notice, he sat there and attacked a victim and then became a victimizer. Or was he already? Right? The mindset with these types of dudes tends to become cyclical. They tend to pass it on to the next degenerate. And that person flips it into whatever nonsense that they flip it into. All right, let us look here. We're going to go a little bit into Nature Boy. And I just want to show what people allow in some of these desperate situations, all right? Because this man, Nature Boy, is arguably he was probably one of the more influential social media cult influencers, I'll say, because I think, a lot of what he used to do was like the live streaming. So, people, when they go back and they look at the recordings, a lot of these things were done on IG Live. They were using different social media platforms. All those platforms are platforms that they were also monetizing to try to make a living off. I mean, like any way that he can siphon money off of this really kind of degenerate concept, he was doing it. All right, so we're gonna watch a video here, and he's just talking about what is going on in his compound. Mind you, one of the women have just left, so I'm actually gonna start it over because I want you guys to see that. Right, one of the women has just left. It said that it was, there was a male who was helping her, and so he got angry or whatever. But she left the camp and decided to record, and then we'll see his response about 3 minutes into the video. Yeah, it kind of is depressing, a lot of love, because it's almost always people who just want love, that just want to belong somewhere. They just want acceptance, and they fall prey to people like this, right? Or they fall prey to ideologies that are going to keep them lonely. Like, think about all the red pill and manosphere dudes who just are full of hatred and anger in their heart, right? And all of it is because of the lies that they've been fed about life and love, and what they're supposed to contribute and get out of it. Like, you can become a prisoner, to your need for validation and your need for acceptance and love. It's very depressing to see.
Ellie is here with me. Ellie. Y'all have a good night. And I'm gonna have a good night too. I love my family. I love God that has kept me throughout everything. Without the presence of God, I would have never been able to make it out. I would have never been able to make those decisions that I made, coming to the conclusions and the realizations. So, that's another topic. I want y'all to know, nature boys out there using knowledge, actual knowledge, to manipulate people, to have sex with everybody. All of them over there have STDs. Yes, I know for sure. I have paperwork to back that up.
I don't know if you guys know, I believe this is Velvet. She was one of the major people who testified against Nature Boy when he was actually convicted. So she's one that has a very heavy influence in the trial specifically as well. So it's interesting kind of to see this. Anyway, she left and she was speaking out against him. And I'm just going to fast forward a little bit because this was his response to her. And when people try to explain cults and why they're such difficult environments to leave, you really have to understand the type of programming that goes into these environments. It's not something that you just walk out of, right? There's a lot of peer-to-peer influence, a lot of peer-to-peer pressure, like there as well. Like, as even though they're going through a lot of this together, they're also influencing each other to stay within it, to compete within it, to seek rank and leadership in it. Like, it's about hierarchy, it almost seems like, which is kind of disturbing. So let's see how he responds to Velvet leaving the property.
Yeah, now go get some dick, ho. Gotta go get some dick, waiting on a nigga to drive you around. I'm not mad. Why would I be mad? A hoe is a hoe. A bitch gonna be a bitch. Why the fuck would I be mad? I've been through this before. This nigga, I'm 38. This bitch 23. I've been through this shit before. I know what a hoe gonna do. A hoe gonna be a hoe. A bitch gonna be a bitch. Bitch, now you got my daughter in the back. My daughter screaming. I heard my daughter. She's screaming. Well, bitch, go fuck on a nigga tonight. You ain't got to make a download. You ain't got to make a download to justify what you about to go do, ho. Bitch. Why are you saying my name, ho? Don't say on my don't say my name, ho. I'm not angry. All you hoes was hating on her when she was here. So y'all can shut the fuck up. Because I seen all of you bitches hating her when Malia whipped her ass.
So
bitch.
For him, this was like, I don't know. I think he had like a degradation kink. Like, he liked to degrade the women that he dealt with. 'Cause it really didn't make any sense how abusive he was, and like how he was able to create a hierarchy amongst the women where they wanted to compete for different spaces. I mean, Velvet, she was also being attacked by women. You know, she'll tell you that it was the women that they were involved with in there as well. Damn, I blew up on this spot. Um, sorry, my phone's blowing up for some reason. But Velvet was actually also being attacked by the women. You'll see a video. I'm actually, after a few minutes of playing this, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to listen to it because he sounds ridiculous. I'm going to show you the new mammies because he has new wives. He has new mammies 5 months ago, as early as 5 months ago, who are still uplifting and upholding this little ratchet culture that he built up. You know, that they're actually still propelling it forward, even though, you know, they're probably not getting many new members. It's probably all the same people, but there's people that still participate in it, regardless of the fact that the government, the police, law enforcement found him guilty and took him away from this community. They're still being influenced by him from jail.
Malia with your motherfucking ass, bitch. Now let's be real. Let's be all the way real. I ain't angry, I'm real. I don't like a bitch to be phony. Y'all motherfucking let a bitch be phony. Bitch, you can't be phony on me, hoe. Talking about I got STDs. Bitch, if I got an STD, you got an STD because you motherfucker was over here. And bitch, don't even worry about me. You came over here with an STD, bitch. You came over here with herpes and I healed you, hoe. Now tell the folks, now let's talk some real shit. Now talk that shit and let me run back these videos where you told people you had herpes and tell a nigga you fucking with you about to go fuck with right now that you got herpes. Tell a bitch right now that you got herpes. And the haters gonna hate. But let's be real. She admitted on video she got herpes. Who healed her from herpes? I did. But you going back into that life and you eating the way you eat and you probably...
And let me just say this. I don't know too much about all of this healing that he's doing, but I don't think you can fix herpes. Isn't that one of the ones that don't go away? I'm pretty sure herpes don't go away, so you didn't heal nothing, nigga. You might have cured an outbreak, like not an outbreak. What happens when they actually break out? Like they have like minor little like bursts of when the herpes is more prevalent, but you can't get rid of that. So I don't know what he thought he was healing. A flare up. That's what it is. So he might have healed a flare up with some natural herbs, sure, but you didn't cure no herpes, love. So she had herpes. When she got there and gave it to you, you gave it to every person that you slept with. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, they did, because he was giving them bad like nutritional advice. They had weird practices about food. They didn't believe in showering and like all this funky. Ugh. And the crazy part about him too is that there was like grown men who got like whipped into his lifestyle as well. They were like they brought their girlfriends and stuff, like just very strange behavior. You know, and it was found that he was on the spectrum of sexuality and all that. And you see him over here oiling up his face, looking like he's going to a Diddy party, just like kind of a weird dude. He's just a strange dude. So he's done enough cussing for me. I don't want to hear his stupid ass anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and oh, I'm sorry guys. I don't know how I remove the. Wait a minute. Oh. Okay, I'm over here like trying to figure out what tab I'm in, but I was like on the tab from hell somewhere else. So we're gonna share this tab here. And like I mentioned, these same women, like you saw him how he was reacting to Velvet. Obviously, he was pissed off that Velvet left, right? She was his top shelf hoe, his favorite. So when she left, they had a daughter as well. So when she left, he was very angry. This is what he would do. When one of them left, he would get on the live, start attacking them. There was a lot of people who weren't even part of this who sought him out after they saw this stuff online. So it was like a cultural type of thing. It was like a brainwashing that was going on among small groups of people in parts of Atlanta, Georgia, and stuff like that as well. You know, someone mentioned Decatur in the chat. Yeah, they were all over the place. At one point, they ended up moving to some. Didn't they move to some weird island somewhere? So they definitely have evolved and they have resources, right? These women and people are giving up everything they have to be with him. So let's watch this. No description is added to this video. Is this the lady who's the one? Oh, okay. Let me see. So Malia, that's what I came down here. Malia speaks at 5 minutes.
It's been a minute, IG. Three is free, three is free. Pyramid, that's a quantum, that's quantum walk.
Peace to the guys. I see you in the building. I'm trying to see if I can. Peace, Tanya. Peace, magical goddess. I see you in the building.
Life is a dream and I'm moving lucid. Ay, I know I'm God, see it through consciousnness. Ay, streaming from nowhere cause we don't exist. It's illusions, life is a hologram, of perception. It's all written, no beginning or
Yeah, this is for some of these people. This is about status. You know, obviously she's the bottom B. That's why she's in the middle. She got a different color feather on her head. You know, she's the top queen in charge. But this is like a social hierarchy. You know, it's weird that they have going on. Let me just fast forward to when she talks. I'm really not trying to see this ghetto consciousness going on here.
It's been a minute, IG.
You know that, which I thought I was going to just be like everybody else and just leave. And no, I would never do that. Do y'all know who Chief is? Chief is God. Like, and that is being revealed right now. So we should be focused on him being released. We should be focusing on, you know, him being released and everything being the light being shined on him because he's God, and everybody else is gonna know that soon. So it don't matter what nobody's doing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dear. I promise you, none of us are gonna think that Eligio Bishop, who's in jail right now, is a god. No, I'm sorry. That's your burden to carry alone. We don't feel that way. So no, this is incredibly delusional right here. This is a sign, I think, of like there's some mental illness going on for them to think that he's God. You know, it's giving schizophrenia. Sorry, guys, this is a damn chair. It's giving schizophrenia. It's giving schizoaffective. Some type of delusional disorder where you believe some type of higher power has chosen you. I think that's kind of what she's in. If you look at all of them, they all have like a glaze over their eyes and their face. They don't really seem like they're present. That makes sense. It's almost like the lights are on, but nobody's home. You know, let's see a little bit more of this.
You know, y'all worrying about the wrong things. Y'all need to be worrying about Chief right now and
Truth,
his well-being, how he doing, him being released. This, you know, the truth coming out. Everything is in divine timing. So that's what should be focused on. Like, y'all thought I was just gonna be like everybody else and just leave and tell my, like, it's rumors. People are just talking and saying stuff. You're never supposed to believe everything that's going on in the blogs. People just want to troll you. People just want mess. People want drama. People just want the next thing to be like, oh, and just put, you know, light on the negative and the dark and to troll you. That's all people out here to do, is to troll you and pull you down like everybody else because they don't want to see you shine.
I rue the day when some of these dusty people learned the term troll. Like, not everything is a troll. Not everything is a troll. Sorry, I was reading the comment. Not everything is a troll, right? These people might genuinely be concerned for your well-being, right? Maybe they're actually worried about why you're supporting someone who is spending life in prison without the possibility of parole. Takeen, honestly, I don't know. It must be either there's a new man or these women just became de facto leaders and they're reveling in the leadership or the power that they have in these communities. But yeah, it looks like a few mammies have risen up. Whew, sorry, y'all. A few mammies have risen up and have taken over the work that he was doing. Yeah, a lot of them are dumb. A lot of them are Takeen, a lot of them are really stupid. And it bothers me because they're putting children at risk. You know, they're inadvertently putting other women at risk by acting like this is a safe place to be, just for a lot of these women to have found out that they didn't have autonomy there. You know, he was charged for false imprisonment, rape. You know, he was an egregious dude. And there was a lot of women, including some of these women. I actually think I recognize the one with the brown thing on top of her head, um, right on top of where my hand is. That one, I believe I've seen her before. So she's one of the ones who've been there. She's an OG to this little cult clan. That's very concerning. These women, I believe they're still in Hawaii as well. There was word that they were going broke, but obviously it seems that they're going back to IG and social media to get money to survive. You know, they look like they're bathing now. I hope they're bathing. They weren't bathing when Eligio was there because he didn't believe in showers or any of that stuff. It was disgusting. You know, they were composting everything, so everything smelled funky. But let's see a little bit more what the mammies are saying.
See, when you're doing something good and you're doing something for the people and you rising up and you speaking truth, they want to knock you down and they want to tear you down and they want to keep you from shining, keep you from shining light on the truth and us coming together as Black people and doing something great with our lives. Nobody. So it's like we got to go hard. We got to stand strong. We got to keep going. No matter what people say or what people do, you got to keep going. You know, we got a mission. We gotta we on. We got something we doing for our people. We doing this for Chief. Exactly. We gotta keep his. You know, keep the mission up. Keep going. Yes, we not stopping. It ain't don't stop here. No. You know, this is just, you know, us showing our strength, showing our endurance, showing our loyalty to what we stand for, our mission to our chief, to our husband. This is bigger than, you know, than what y'all talking about. Rumors and just, you know, just.
Baby, a conviction is not a rumor. Okay? You guys might be delusional, but we are not. Okay? A conviction is not a rumor. That is a fact, right? That's why he was convicted, and that's why he will be in jail. He will be in jail for life. And specifically, I remember I covered this channel a while ago when I before I'd even fully gone full throttle into crime and brought that audience in. I had covered it because he was in court laughing. He was being so callous, and so that was why the judge was initially very harsh in the sentencing. She gave him life without the possibility of parole. You know, and he wasn't young. He wasn't sentenced as a child or as a young adult. So this is not something that he's going to walk out of. He's going to die in prison, right? That's his fate. So it's kind of crazy that these women think that there's something to hold on to, and they're all just waiting for this man from prison to come back. At this point, it got to be a scam because it don't even make sense. But all right, guys, I'm gonna let y'all have that. Right, I don't want to make the video too long. Make sure people can still come back and watch. So do me a favor, guys, as I send you off with some lovely music. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. Yeah, he's a nasty wooga booga. Nasty, nasty wooga booga. He didn't believe in showering. They didn't go to doctors. Remember, there was a lot of biological waste on their property. Like, he's just nasty in general. I don't understand how women fell for that. It literally has to be desperation and lack of leadership in your life to fall for that. So, we all make this bad decisions, but these women are just making constant bad decisions, and obviously it seems like none of them have anyone seeking them. Some of these women brought their kids with them, so It's crazy that they're still there. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Black Beauty. I appreciate you guys for joining me, for running through the content with me. Guys, I enjoy these conversations always. They these types of conversations are good because they always got to come back. If they don't come back and we don't have them, unfortunately, people like this, they just multiply and replenish the earth. They just keep plowing and plowing out kids that are born into this degeneracy, which hopefully one day we can end. All right, so I'm going to send you guys off with some music. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You're greatly appreciated for coming here. And I'm going to go ahead and play the music. If you guys could hit the like button for me, share, subscribe on your way out, I'll appreciate you.
Florabella on my screen. Her smile, it shines so bright. She's a queen with every scene. In the morning or the night, recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong, she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong, she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit